we want, well, there's two kinds of society. There's the matrix society, but the true society, the true women with a brain, they actually, I want a man who's strong, who's supportive, who's intelligent, who financially provides, etc. Then you're going to want a man to some degree who's been through some shit.
Yeah.
And a man who's internalized it and used it as a weapon. And this is what I say to people. People email me their long lists of all the bad things that happened to them, and I reply, fantastic. You are so lucky. You have all the building blocks to become the exact kind of man you want to be. If none of this shit happened to you, when something else bad happens to you later, you wouldn't be able to deal with it. Fantastic. And he goes, no, but this. He replied again with more excuses. Said, why are you making excuses? I just told you what happened to you is a good thing. You need to reframe your mind. Bad things happened to Batman. They killed his parents. Do you understand? That's why he's Batman. You just told me you have the building blocks to become you might become top G when I retire. Fantastic. What are you complaining about? He goes, well, what do I do? I said, you need to work. Take all that trauma. If you're truly heartbroken, my friend, and we've all been there as men, if you're truly heartbroken, you can't sleep. That means you're going to get in fantastic shape. You better hit the gym. You have nothing else to do. Stop watching YouTube. Stop emailing me. I want pictures of you in the gym. Get to fucking work. Heartbreak's a fantastic motivator, as is depression, as is sadness. Great. Look at what's pissing you off and make sure it never happens again. If you were jacked and rich as fuck, she probably wouldn't have left your ass. So get your shit together, right? So this is so important. Trauma is such an important part of being a man. And the Matrix talks of trying to say that trauma is terrible and avoid trauma, or if you get trauma, take a pill, and that's unrealistic. Trauma's going to happen to you, and you as a man need to internalize it, accept it, and weaponize it to become the best version of yourself you can be. And that requires mental strength and stoicism. It does not require, be more emotional. If you're more emotional, you're going to fall apart when shit happens. You're going to end up like Logan Paul, crying your eyes out on TV like a bitch.
I imagine there's a lot of men that hate you because they have not done anything with their lives. And you're basically saying, clean it up, buddy. Get it together. Hit the gym. Make something in your life.
It's interesting.
And they want to get rich quick. They want the easy way out. And they probably hate you more than feminists.
It's interesting. The men who support me online have their shit together. The men who hate me are fat. The men who've done the takedown videos of me are objectively unattractive individuals. I'm not trying to be insulting. Just objectively obese, unattractive individuals, right? People who don't have their life together. It's the same even more with women. You can find 10 women who are sticking up for me, supporting me. They're all beauty queens. And then you find some girl sitting there, some troll sitting in the corner. Gender's bad for women. So there's a lot to be said there, right? And hate always comes from below. It never comes from above. The people who have their lives together, whether male or female, love me. The people who have failed and they know that the failure is their own fault, and I show I'm a good mirror, I reflect their own failures at them. Oh yeah, of course they hate me. And that's what's happened here. What's most upsetting is as follows. This whole idea of protecting women and misogyny has been weaponized to attack someone they don't like. These people saying that we need to get them down to he's a misogynist, they don't give a fuck about women, these people. You think they care? There's some fat troll. So there's some dude called Daz who made a takedown video of me who just came out actually on my last podcast. Turns out he was talking to a 13-year-old girl. So he's a fat pedophile. So there's a fat pedophile who did a video on YouTube about me saying that I'm dangerous for women. Got 10 million hits. Because he's objectively unattractive, saying that he cares about women, but he's a pedophile himself. He doesn't care about women. He's jealous of me. He's jealous of who I am and my lifestyle, so he's found something he can use to weaponize. If he can't make up that bullshit and attack me, how else can he attack me? He can't call me broke, can't call me dumb, can't call me stupid. Like, what can he call me? Well, he's better than me at everything, but if I take this and pretend to give a shit, he doesn't give a fuck. I build orphanages in Romania. I have a charity that rescues stray dogs. I take time out of my life replying to emails saving people from suicide. What the fuck does this guy do for anybody? Nothing. But he's the good person because he gives a shit? No. He's using it as a vehicle to attack somebody who he knows is his superior in every single human metric that can be measured by modern science, and he dislikes me for it. All of this is just weaponized care. Oh, we care so much about, they don't care about fucking anything. They don't care about people. They just dislike me. And that's a very different thing. It's all been false from the beginning. I've seen through it all from the absolute beginning. It's a matrix attack. And like I said, I told you how it happened. YouTube strike, Meta, YouTube, media, Uber, Gmail, Discord, Skype, Twitch, boom, 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 boom. It's all fucking...
I'm going to take it from here.
आप जैसों की जरूरत है.
You stay tuned. With the new Schwab Starter Kit, open an account and get $101 to split across the top 5 stocks in the S&P 500. Plus, unlock short videos, step-by-step guides, and other easy-to-use tools for new investors. It's Investing 101 reimagined.
coordinated hit piece. It's bullshit.
You know, it's crazy. I'm listening to you and I'm saying, okay, so who does not want to hear what you have to say? Most people don't want to hear what you have to say. Okay. Now, why is most people not wanting to hear what you have to say? When a kid is being raised, you got the good cop and the bad cop, right? Mm-hmm. In many instances, the father's the bad cop. Many instances. In the family nucleus where mom and dad are together, the father plays the bad cop. The father comes in, get your shit together. You ain't doing nothing. Be a man. Go make money. Get off your ass. Yeah. All you're doing is this. All you're doing is that. And that's the message. However, if the market is only filled with only one or of the two, it's not healthy. Yep. Meaning, if it's only Tate giving this message, that's not healthy. If it's only the mom saying, well, leave him alone, Andrew. Yeah. You're being too tough on him. Yeah. You don't know what he's going through. He's just a kid. Yeah. He's 12 years old. Why are you being so tough on him? And you, the father, I'm trying to turn him into a man. He needs to be man. You realize how tough the world is? But, babe, he's just a kid, babe. Leave him alone. You don't know what happened with him last week. So then you, as the father, goes to sleep. And you tell her you didn't hear anything she said. But you're sitting there saying, maybe she's got a point. Maybe she's got a point. And in the morning, you go to the kid and say, hey, no matter how much shit I talk and I challenge you, guess what? I love you. I believe in you. I think you're going to do something special with your life. But I want to see you be a leader, right? So the problem with the market is they only want to give mommy's message completely without daddy's message. This is why I believe this message blew up. Yeah. Because the market needs this as well. Because so what happens when I listen to Andrew's message, you'll say something. You know what? Like we met a lady of yours that you introduced to us yesterday. Said, this is my wife. Yeah. And we met her, right? And you said, I'm not in a phase where I want to have thousands. If I wanted to, I could every night. I could have a different girl, blah, 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 blah. All that stuff you say. We say, for me, it's only 5. Okay.
5's the magic number.
Yeah, and you say 5's the number. Okay. So you say that, and is it satire? Is it real? Is it straight up? Are you just saying it because you still want to poke a little bit? You still don't want to lose the ability to poke? Yeah. Or is it, that's really what I do want to do? Yeah. You know, I do want to kind of have 5 wives because there's a leak in that argument as well. If you take that angle of saying I want to have 5 wives.
No, completely. And that's a good point. And that's an interesting one as well, because I had a conversation with a journalist from the Telegraph who came to my house, and I had a long conversation with him, which I'm about to raise. Before that, I just want to quickly say something that you reminded me of earlier. I think that one of the main reasons people hate me is because my message is one of the fact that I came from absolutely nothing. I never had a privileged upbringing in any regard, and I became exactly what I wanted to be. And if you subscribe to my message and you're a fat, unhappy man, then you know all of the failures are your own. I'm a reflection. I am saying that if you understand how I think and my world, you could have become anything you want to be. But you're unhappy with who you are, and that is your fault. So the people who hate me sit there and go, well, if he's right, then I fucked up. If he's right, I could have been anyone I wanted to be. And I fucked up. So he can't be right. He has to be wrong. Because this is not my fault. This is the fault of whatever. I had an unlucky upbringing, or my girl left me, or that it's someone else's fault. If I take responsibility like Tate tells me, then I'm a fuck up.
Right.
So I have to hate Tate. Tate has to be wrong. And that's why if you look at the composition of my haters, I'm talking about their physical composition as people. You can just look at the people. He likes Tate. He hates Tate. Yep. He likes Tate. She likes Tate. She wants to go on Tate's yacht. She can't stand his ass. It's very easy to see. Physically, you can just look at their faces. And yep, no. You can see it, right? Because it's all about personal responsibility, which is why I teach, and that's why a lot of people hate me. So that's the first thing I was talking about, reflection. But it's very interesting what you're saying about the 5 wives thing. Part of what I do when I talk, especially about my personal life, to a degree, is subversion. I learned this. My father was a chess grandmaster, right? And I used to travel around America with him, and he'd play chess. And back then, there was a lot of former KGB guys who played chess in these massive tournaments. And when they spoke, they were very subversive. He'd introduce you to his girlfriend, and she'd be his wife. And then his other girlfriend, she's his wife. And then his friend is his daughter. And then they just say things that aren't really true. Another thing they do is they're very, very emotive with their hands, which is a habit that I kind of learned sometimes. So if they were sitting there and an argument got kind of heated, they begin to move their hands a lot as they disagree. Listen to me, listen, da-da-da-da, and they move their hands because then you can't see if they're going to hit you. So they start to move their hands, and you get used to it, and then whack, right? So There's a few things I picked up from them, but there's a degree of subversion. So if I sit and say I have 5 wives, or 10 wives, or 1 wife, or no wife, I like that the Matrix doesn't completely understand what I have. That's one of the main reasons I do it. The second thing is this. I sat there with a reporter from the Telegraph who said that, why would you have 5 wives? If you cheat on them, they're unhappy. And I said, my friend, who are you to tell women how they feel and what decisions they want to make? How insulting of you, how chauvinistic are you to sit and say that women do not have the independent thought to decide, I am prepared to share the top G because of his qualities and accolades and financial capability, as opposed for you to sit here and say they're not allowed to think that. They have to think what we believe they should think, what the Matrix tells them they should think. There are plenty of beautiful women out there who will say, you know what, a man like him, he might do this and that on the side, but you know what, he's my man. There's women who will think that. They won't think it for a fucking loser, but they'll certainly think at the top. When Chris Brown walks in the club and all the girls start screaming, do you think they're going, yes, he'll be loyal? Fuck no. He's Chris Brown. They don't give a shit because of his status. At a certain status of man, and I'm not saying that men should cheat, I'm not saying these things, I'm saying at a certain status of man, the idea of absolute exclusivity and absolute loyalty becomes less important to the female because of his other accolades. That's a fact. Every king, every sultan, read the Bible. Every warlord had a bunch of women. Why? Because he was the warlord. The fucking shit muncher didn't, but the warlord did. That's just the way the world's always been.
That distinction, by the way.
There is a distinction.
It's just the top man.
It's just the top. And I'm not saying that all men can do it, but that's also my message. I don't say to all men, have a bunch of girls. I don't say that. I say, you better become the fucking man. All I can tell you is what it's like up here and how I got here. If you're telling me you're adamant on staying down there, then don't cry that you're lonely, because I don't know that life. I can't tell you. So, once again, I talk about 5 wives, 4 wives, whatever, etc. These feminists who attack me saying, he gets these women and he cheats on them. If a female decides she wants to be with me, assuming that's what I even do, I could be Mr. Monogamous for anyone fucking knows, right? Assuming that's what I do, that's her imperative. She's an adult. She can sit there and go, okay, my man's the big boss, and he's with me 99% of the time, but I know if he goes to Moscow on a business trip, he's doing X. But he comes home to me, and I'm driving a Bentley, and I'm happy. That's her imperative. That's her prerogative. It's only the feminists and the fucking people who care so much about misogyny and love the women so much who come along and say women are not allowed to think for themselves. No, they're not allowed to accept that. They can accept whatever they want. Women are the gatekeepers. It's a free market, and women are the gatekeepers. Women have all the choice. If they want to get a guy who doesn't fuck nothing else, they can go get some other guy. Women have all the options in the world. So if last week I was on my yacht in Croatia, there was me, my brother, and like 30 girls. All the girls were getting messages, why are you there? I want to be here. I want to be on his boat.
I'm not being held
What's
hostage.
confusing?
Not against my will.
Like, that's their decision to make. How arrogant and narcissistic must you be as a random individual, especially a male, a random, unattractive male with no girlfriend, to message an attractive woman and tell her that what she's doing, she thinks wrong for being with me and my brother on a yacht, and that she should instead want him playing video games at home? What kind of level of delusion are you operating under to even believe that that's a paradigm of reality? And these are the people who dislike me, who then get exposed to being pedophiles like Dad's Black. So it's just absolutely insane. I'm sorry to keep rambling, but I want to talk about one more thing. I want to talk about one more thing because it's really important. They say I'm a threat to women, which is absolutely not the truth. It couldn't be further from the truth. And I want to say 2 things about that. I can't think of another person who reached fame as meteorically as me, who never had I've yet to have a single woman come out and accuse me of rape, sexual assault, try and get money from me. None. I have a long and varied history with females, and not a single one, despite I now have hundreds of millions of dollars, has come forward, now that I'm the most famous man in the world, despite the newspapers finding them online, finding exes I haven't spoken to for years, calling them and offering them 25 grand for a story, bribe, to turn on me. Not one of them has decided to turn on me and lie for money. Not one. And that could have very easily happened to me. It would have been a nail in one of the coffins if that would have happened to me. Luckily, none of it did, because I'm a gentleman, and these women know that what's happening to me is bullshit. Not a single one has come forward against me, but I'm a threat to women. I would argue that most men in my position, if they had a meteoric rise, one of their stupid exes would go, fuck this guy. Yeah, I'll take the money, and start talking shit. I would argue that happened to a lot of men. Never happened to me. It's the first thing. The second thing I want to argue is when they say I'm a threat to women. If I have choice, why would I be a threat? The threat to women is the man with no access to women. These people who want to do these videos, these unattractive, objectively unattractive, unsuccessful people who do takedown videos of me, who can't get a girlfriend, He's the guy who's going to be dangerous to women. He's the creep. I have choices. If a girl says to me, I don't like you, no problem. Thank God, one less WhatsApp conversation. Goodbye. Have a nice life. Nice to meet you. It doesn't matter to me, right? So the men who are successful with women are not the dangers. It's the men who are unsuccessful with women who are the dangers. So once again, the whole paradigm is shift. It's bullshit. I have no reason to hurt a female or rape a female or trick a female in any regard. Why would I do that?
It's
Which
basic economics, supply and demand.
Supply and demand.
If you're high in demand and there's a ton of women there, and one of the women leaves, you have an unlimited supply.
So why am I
But
going to
if
become a
one
weirdo?
man who can't get any females, who he has no supply and he's in complete high demand, and the woman breaks his heart, or he can't even get a woman, what kind of ramifications are going to happen for him?
And this is the thing. Daz Black, during the height of the takedown, and it's actually also, it talks to the group thing, right? Because a lot of the people who did videos to try and take me down did it for completely selfish reasons. We have learned that the algorithm has now been programmed to reward you doing a negative video on Tate. If you do a negative video on Tate, you get millions of views. I want millions of views because I have a YouTube channel. I get money, I get clout. Do I give a shit if it's true? Do I give a shit about Tate? Do I give a shit about the ramifications in his life? No. All these other people did it, so I'm going to do it. So people start jumping on the bandwagon, right? Tate's bad, Tate's bad, Tate's bad, for their own personal selfish views. So a guy called Daz Black did a video on me, got 10 million hits, trying to say that I'm a threat to women. He's objectively unattractive. He's an obese video gamer. Did a video on me saying that I'm a threat to women. After that, women started coming forward saying, this guy has spoke to a 13-year-old girl. Here's the videos. This guy buys sexual things from an underage girl. That's all coming out about him being a pedophile now. So he's sitting there as the criminal himself, filled of hate and envy at an innocent man, plus clout chasing, attacking me. When, truthfully, who's turned out to be the threat to women? How many women have come forward about me? 0. How many women have come forward about him? 2 and counting. It's absolutely and utterly, it's crazy. And if these social media companies have any kind of consciousness and any kind of brain, they should be analyzing this in real time going, we fucked up. We fucked up here. And we'll see what happens in real time. But it's very interesting. It's a very interesting observation on the world. The people who hate me most are the unsuccessful ones, and it turns out they're the ones with the skeletons in their closet. The people who have their shit together, we're all fine, right? Crazy. It's a crazy world.
Yeah, Tate, you're very persuasive though. So you got to know, like, if I'm willing to bet on you getting out of any situation, I'm willing to bet a lot of money that the over-under is you're going to get out of it. So your ability to persuade. So I can already imagine, like, you know how sometimes go back to the time you're with a girl, you know, you don't really know what you're doing yet. You're kind of a rookie of a guy dating girls. What things we said to have sex with the girl. Just think about how creative we get in that 5-minute moment. What things you've probably said, what things we've said. And then over time, you're like, well, that didn't work. So I'm not going to use that phrase again, but this one definitely worked. And that approach definitely works. So it's either guilt, but you don't know how much I love you. You're not letting me show you love. Sometimes I'm a man. It's natural, as a man, if I don't handle it myself, it's got to be either you or it's going to be wet dreaming. There's so many ways behind closed doors. So if
it's the exact opposite as well. It can be like, I don't really care. You can leave if you want.
There's many the takeaway model. There's many models that you learn. So for you to say that to a girl, I remember one time Jennifer and I, my wife, I'm getting close to proposing and getting married. So I'm a Syrian, she's white. She's 80% British when we did the ancestry, but she's from Texas. Yeah. So she comes to the house. My dad's here's who my dad is. My dad will not drink out of the same glass as me. Okay? I'm his son. Yeah. He will not. Yeah. My dad, if he goes to someone else's house, he won't eat their food. Yeah. Because he watches how you wash your hands. If he's sitting in the kitchen, he will tell me in Assyrian, he'll say, did you watch that? I said, what? I said, I can't eat her food. Why? It's been 10 minutes. She hasn't washed her hands a single time. I can't eat her food. And he won't eat their food. He says, I'm already ate. That's how my dad is, right? So anyways, I'm bringing Jen home. My dad loves Jen. And I said, Jen, I think my dad and I have to have a serious conversation with you because you have to be ready for this. She says, what's that? I said, do you know what it is to marry an Assyrian? She says, no. I said, there's American laws, there's Assyrian laws, and my dad and I want to share this with you. Yeah. And my dad is fully confused, like what I'm saying, like where I'm going with this. I said, when you marry an Assyrian, I'm allowed to have multiple wives because by our church, I can have multiple wives. Yeah. And for about 30 seconds, my dad's confused, like, what the hell are you talking about? Yeah. But I'm looking at my wife now, at the time, girlfriend, she's like, are you serious? I said, This is the first Warriors ever. We're serious.
Yeah.
We're the first ever Warriors. 30 seconds into my dad's like, I don't subscribe to Patrick. I don't agree. I agree. One wife, Jennifer, don't listen to him. He's full of shit, right? He says this kind of stuff. Now, say my dad says, yeah, you should. Just think about, let's flip it. So my dad says, yeah, he's a man. If he gives you money, he gives you a house, he should do that. Yeah. Then I'm kind of going to be like, yeah, what's wrong if I do that? So I think a lot of it is also on, our ability to persuade, and we can go here. And then sometimes we test the limit and say, I can go here. Why don't you get your friend in? Yeah. I like you. But, if you want to, maybe you have some fantasies. Yeah. I don't know what you're from. But if you want to fulfill your fantasy, it's not like I want to hook up with your friend. Yeah. But you can bring your friend in. And then these words that we use, right? So persuasive-wise, you're a 10. You can get anything you want when you're having those conversations. But here's the other part I want to bring to you. Okay? I'm writing all these things down. Yeah. You like to instigate. You like to poke. Now, let me say it and then you unpack it. Meaning, I think a great Dana White knows how to instigate. By the way, it's a very valuable talent that only a few people have. Yeah. Dana White likes to instigate. Phil Jackson, he instigated a lot of shit between Shaq and Kobe, right? Some may even say the friction between Shaq and Kobe is on Phil Jackson, but there's an art to it. Yeah. So a little bit of what you do is I kind of look at you and I say, here's how Tate is. If somebody says, well, you're wrong in this area, instead of Tate saying, let me explain myself, Tate will go and push more because he found an opportunity. He's like, let me poke here a little bit more because it's annoying you. Yeah. So do you think you have a little bit of that when you see somebody, maybe half the time, like when you said, I got 5 wives, I don't even know if I'm convinced you want to have 5 wives. Yep. I just think you say it because you're pissing off the right people.
And that's a very astute observation, and you are correct. Anybody you can emotionally control, anybody you can emotionally affect, you have them in your pocket, right? To one degree or another. If you can emotionally control somebody, I'll tell you who's excellent at this. Women. Women are fantastic at this. If a woman realizes she can piss you off with X thing, she'll notice it, she'll keep it in her pocket. You know what? That annoys him. Cool. Sorry, baby. Sorry. 3 weeks later, 2 months later, they realize when you're vulnerable. I can tell you this. I can tell you the experience from fighting. When I was fighting, I was a kickboxing world champion, right? I never made millions from fighting. Kickboxing is not that big a sport. 10 years ago, even UFC wasn't as big as it is now. So I was making money, but I was probably fighting 2 or 3 times a year. And most I ever got paid was 100, 150 grand a fight. So I was kind of normal life. And whichever girlfriend I had at the time, no matter what, she always managed to start some asinine, stupid, immature fight with me like 3 days before a fight. Because I'm weight drained, I haven't eaten, I'm nervous, I can't sleep. I've been training for fucking 10 weeks. This monster's from fucking Kazakhstan, some psycho. I have to fly over to fucking fuck knows where and Bishkek to fight him. And now she's like, you're on the toilet seat. I'm like, the fucking toilet seat. I might die and he can kill me. But she knew that's when I was weak. She knew it. And that's when you can be emotional. But they detect it. This is when I can get it. Right? Because the rest of the time...
All times to talk about the goddamn toilet.
Because if I say toilet seat any other time, his answer is go home. And just sit on his computer. Go home then. Go toilet at home. Bye. No, I don't want to go home. No, now I actually want you to go home. Please leave my house. Oh, no, I didn't want to leave. Bye. Goodbye. Fuck you. Thanks. Next girl. So they get you when you're weak, right? And anyone who can emotionally control you and emotionally affect you has power over you. So if I say, 5 wives, and a feminist goes, 5 wives? I'm fat. I'll sit there and just... Yeah, but obviously, a lot of food needs cooking, so she needs help. And I'll just say shit. but that's because they make it too easy. Yeah. If you're playing chess and you hang a piece, I'm gonna snap it up. You're gonna leave your knight hanging. Thank you very much, sir. Bam. That's the game. That's the game. So yeah, you're completely right. I do instigate to a degree because they make it so fucking easy to win. It's so easy for me to win debates against people because they get so pissed off with what I say. Another thing, and I'll give the game away. I'll give the game away to the entire YouTube world, why I've destroyed absolutely everybody in any debate ever. I say things that they know are true and that they agree with, but I say it in a way that angers them emotionally, and they get caught up in their brain because they're saying, he's saying the truth, but I'm pissed off by how he's saying it. So I want to argue with him, but he's right. So instead of saying men are physically stronger than women, I'll say females are weak. Females are weak. Well, females are weak. Men are strong, females are weak. No, but females are... But I'm right, and he knows I'm right. but he's mad now, and so is she, and they sit there, and you'll happen on Dave Portnoy. You end up having a whole group of people sitting there trying to argue. Well, some women are strong like men, trying to argue the fact that women are as strong as men physically because I've emotionally controlled them all and upset them all. And then I do a podcast and I get billions and millions of views and unlimited likes against good debaters like Dave and his little crew by just emotionally controlling them. It's an emotional game. I wreck them. I've never given this game away before anyway. But this is what I do. I sit there and I say something they know is true in a way they can't agree with it, and I fucking control them all. Because they're stupid. If I was me, I'd be like, yeah, okay, perhaps I don't like the way you phrased it, but you're very true. That takes intellect. People are emotional. So this is why I wreck all of them. And you're right. I poke them on purpose. And it makes it very difficult to argue with me, especially if they agree with what I'm saying, but they don't like the way it's being said. That's where you see the full breakdowns, the full mental breakdown.
In regards to emotion, before I came to Valuetainment, this is 3 years ago, Pat said, I want you to read a book. It was called Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, Stoicism.
Yep.
You've referenced Stoicism multiple times, not getting emotional, thinking rational.
Yep.
This was a book that you've subscribed to for years. What is it about Stoicism and not getting caught up in emotions and even triggering emotions that resonates with you?
Well, emotions are feedback. The idea that men don't feel emotions is incorrect. We feel emotions. I would actually argue we feel emotions with certain emotions stronger than women. I would argue that we feel heartbreak stronger than women. I would argue we feel anger like a woman could never understand. I would argue we are extremely emotional. Rage, pure rage. But it's feedback. So when you get the feedback, it's all about how you internalize it and how you process it, right? It's Stoicism's not feeling emotions. It's feeling the emotion and going, okay, why is this happening? How much does this really matter? What's the most intelligent move on the chessboard? I'm not even that good at chess, right? My father was a grandmaster. I'm like 1800 ELO. I'm okay. I was a child chess prodigy, but I stopped playing chess professionally when I was like 8. So I'm as good now as I was. In fact, I'm worse now than when I was 8 because I've never taken any lessons or anything properly since. Because my mother and father broke up. We moved to England. My dad stayed in America. Lost my chess coach, and England didn't have a chess infrastructure. America had a chess infrastructure in the lower income schools. My dad used to go to the ghetto schools because he was black. Go to the black schools and teach them how to play chess. So we had a big infrastructure.
You peaked at 8.
I peaked at 8, yeah. But chess is a fantastic game because in the game of chess, there's no luck. If you lose, no matter how well you played, if you lose, at some point you made a mistake. Even if it's the most minor mistake, you made a mistake. So you learn to understand that no matter what happens to you, if you lose a scenario, you made a mistake. Maybe it's a tiny one. Maybe it was 2 years ago, whatever, but you made a mistake. And you learn absolute and utter accountability for yourself. And that mentality is extremely powerful to apply to all things in life. The position I'm in now as the most hated man in the world, although I agree and I truly believe it's unfair, I still take complete responsibility for. I'm not going to sit here and say, I'm telling you why it happened when I talk about TikTok and YouTube shorts, but I'm not going to blame them. Absolutely. They're a company making money and they're monetizing the best they can. Fantastic. All of this is my fault. But the Bugatti on my drive is my fault. And the yacht is my fault. The private jet's my fault. So it's all my fault. So I take the good with the bad. I take all responsibility for absolutely everything, including if a woman leaves me, if a woman stays, if I end up heartbroken, if I end up filled with rage, I take responsibility for that. If something happens to me that makes me enraged, I will take responsibility. Why has this happened to me? Why do I feel this way? How did I end up in this position? Is this healthy in this scenario? And sometimes it is. I've had scenarios in my life where I was prepared to die to protect somebody else, and I was enraged, and it was healthy. I've also had times where I'm in a room by myself, enraged, sitting there going, this is no good for anybody. I need to just calm the fuck down. So emotions are feedback, but stoicism is the ability to process them. And that's what you need to learn as a man. You're never going to be able to turn them off. You're going to feel them. You have to learn how to process them and turn them into a positive. It's energy. It's unlimited energy. I say this all the time. I say that the biggest periods of transformation in my life is when everything was going wrong. When my life was going good, I'm not a hedonistic person. I don't do drugs. I don't gamble. I don't do prostitutes. I don't do anything that hedonistic. But I'll certainly go on the yacht with a bunch of women I know and chill and have some vodkas, that kind of thing. When life's smooth, then it's semi-hedonistic, pretty relaxed. But when I make my biggest progress, when I really change who I am and change the world, that's when everything's fucked. When things go wrong, or I'm feeling things I don't want to feel, or bad things are happening, that's when I'm like, okay, I currently cannot sleep. I've completed the day's tasks. I've tried to go to bed. I can't sleep. More shit has to get done. That's when the amazing things happen in my life. When I was heartbroken, whenever, everyone's been heartbroken. I can't remember a specific example. I hit the gym harder, right? If something goes wrong with your payment processor, that's when you get fucking inventive. That's business, right? That's when you get inventive. So all the bad things that happen to you as a man, if you're stoic, you get to take unlimited energy. Heartbreak is unlimited energy. So is depression. So is rage. So is sadness. All these negative emotions they tell you to collapse behind. It's like, people talk like, Bruce Lee says, be like water. And people see that as be fluid and just go with the flow. I disagree. If you're like water, you're necessary for life. You are scary when you're enraged. You're powerful. You're beautiful when you're calm. You're so many things when you're like water, right? So if I'm enraged, it's like water behind a dam. You just got to put the dam in place, and you got to get the turbo, the hydroelectrics put in. Don't tsunami your life. Put the energy somewhere. And this is the most beautiful thing about it, because people message me all the time like, oh, but Tate, you don't know how sad I feel. No, it's incorrect. I know exactly how sad you feel. Difference is I used it. And you're sitting here still crying, some random guy on email for the fucking third month in a row. That's the difference between you and me, my friend. I was becoming a world champion kickboxer. I got to a point into it. People often talk about depression and say I don't understand it. I will say, listen, there's been times in my life where I was fully functional as an adult. I would never label myself depressed because I don't believe in the idea of labeling myself in a negative, because I don't believe in things that take power from me, which we'll talk about in a second. But there's been times in my life where I didn't give a fuck if I lived or died. There's been times in my life where I went to fight a man for money, and I didn't give a shit if I lost and even woke up again. Didn't give a fuck. I had nothing worth living for. I was brokey, didn't have a girlfriend, didn't have any fucking money. Got a 2-day call to fight some world champion. Had to lose 10 kilos in 2 days. Had nothing else going for me. Got on a plane to Dagestan and fucking won. There's been times I've done that. By all conventional wisdom, I was depressed. I was suicidal. But I was just like, no, I don't give a shit. And that's when I was at my most powerful. Now if I get that call, I'm like, bro, I got a new car outside and shit.
I'm not going to Dagestan, bro.
Like, going to where? Sorry, how much money? Nah. But back then I was like, yeah, cool. Who is he? Oh, this guy. All right, fine. I didn't give a fuck. I was most powerful when I was sad, when I was depressed, when all these things. And the difference was the framing. It was the framing of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you know where you take me to? You take me to Tom Cruise with Matt Lauer. And I don't know if you've seen this or not, where Tom Cruise on Matt Lauer.
When he's freaking out on the couch.
Tom Cruise is no, that's Ellen DeGeneres.
Okay.
This is Tom Cruise, Matt Lauer, and Tom is a Scientologist who does not believe in medication.
Yeah.
He does not believe in taking, antidepressants. He doesn't believe in Ritalin. He doesn't believe in any of that stuff. I don't know where you stand with this medication stuff. He's not for it. And Matt Lauer is saying, what's wrong if this helped that Brooke Shields? What's wrong if this helps out? He says, you don't realize what this is doing. This is ruining their lives. This is not helping them. Do you realize how many different countries this is illegal in? Do you realize that Ritalin is only legal in a couple different countries? It's not many countries. It's not a legal drug in other places. It's legal. And he's explaining this. And believe it or not, afterwards, they pinned Tom Cruise to be almost an asshole, like a misogynist. Like,
of course.
What does it matter with you? Insensitive. You're not passionate. You're not somebody that cares about another person. Years later, Tom Cruise looks like the hero, but in the heat of the moment, he didn't come out really good, right? So we're living in an era where you're right. A part of it is, hey, you're not feeling good, you're depressed. Take 2 of these, see what happens to you.
It's the hero's arc, and this is the thing. This is why what I was saying when people say you don't know how it feels to be depressed. I say yes, I do. The difference is how it's analyzed. I always argue this 2 ways as well when depressed people come to me, because one of my most famous things people attack me for is their little quote is they say, you said depression isn't real. What about the man who kills themselves? You don't care about men's mental health. We've already discussed how I care more about men's mental health than these people who fucking pretending. That's the first thing. I didn't say depression isn't real. I said feeling depressed is real. But the idea that depression is going to strike you in your mind and there's nothing you can do about it, I think that is promoting helplessness amongst depressed people, and that's the reason they kill themselves. I don't think that making people helpless in an unfortunate situation is the great thing to do. You have to give people hope. And I explained that when you believe in something, you give it power. So I tried to say that when I felt at my lowest and I achieved the most I've ever achieved in my life, the reason I was capable of doing that is because I didn't believe in the paradigm of being a depressed person. I just believed that this is how I currently feel, and fuck it, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get my life to be better. And I gave a very simple example, an analogy. I said, if you take 2 people, one believes in ghosts and one doesn't. You put them both in haunted houses. And in the middle of the night, there's a bang. The person who believes in ghosts is now terrified. There's a ghost. They're calling an exorcist. They're panicking in the room. They're hiding. The person who doesn't believe in ghosts goes wind and goes back to sleep. It's the same noise. It's the same scenario. But it's the belief
That's powerful.
in their mind that...
With Adyen's unified payments platform, your business can say yes to more. Like accepting new ways to pay, delighting your customers, and growing your business. Visit Adyen.com to learn more. Adyen.
terror and ruins their life.
Yeah.
It's the belief in their mind that turns against them. And I've said this many times. I don't even give a shit about right and wrong. You can tell me depression's, you can give me with every scientific proof in the world, depression, blah, blah. I refuse to believe in things that take my power away from me. I'm only going to construct a mental model that allows me to be as powerful as possible. If believing in the idea of depression is going to take my own power away, then I won't believe in it. I don't want to believe in things that make me weak. If you want to reach me, I am on Minict. Minict is a new app. It's fantastic. It allows me to interact directly with people. I get a lot of messages on email, a lot of DMs and those kind of things. But the people who are serious, who want to have serious conversations and grow from them, whether it's a business opportunity or personal experience, etc., I'm on Minict, and I can't wait to interact with the serious individuals in the world. I believe in things that make me strong. And someone goes, "Oh, you're wrong." Listen, let's assume you're correct and that makes me wrong. Let's say that you're right and you're depressed. Why would I want to adopt the thinking of a man who is sad? Why would I want to think like you? Wouldn't it better to be wrong and be happy and have a sports car and a yacht and a private jet? You want to talk about right? Look at your life. I don't talk about right and wrong. Let's talk about success and results. I don't believe in things that take power from me. I never have. So when people email me and they start saying, "I'm depressed, I'm depressed, I'm depressed." And what's funny is this. I talk to them and they desperately defend the idea of depression. I'm like, "My friend, you just told me you're too depressed to be successful and depression has destroyed your life and you lost your girl. I'm telling you that the enemy in your life isn't real. And you're now sending me 10 emails a week trying to convince me that your enemy is a real thing. Why are you sticking up for your enemy? This person, whatever it is, this idea destroyed you and you're putting your energy into defending it. You should be on my team. Whose team are you on here? You want to sit here and convince me? I'm never going to believe you. I'm never going to adopt your thinking because your life is not successful enough for me to emulate. So why don't you try to adopt my way of thinking? Stop defending this. And they're defending it because it's a cure-all excuse. Depression or sadness is a cure-all excuse for men to use for failure. I have failed. This is why they say I don't believe in men's mental health, or the man who's depressed can't compete with the man who's not depressed. This quote. I say, listen, you get to roll out, be fat, be out of shape, be broke, be unimportant with no girlfriend. And instead of the world thinking you're a loser, you get to say, "I'm not a loser, I'm depressed." It's a shield.
Yeah.
And I say, that's why you don't want to lose your shield. Because now you have accountability. Now you have performance. It's a cop-out. Fuck it off. I don't give a shit if it's real or not. We're not about that. We're talking about success here. Get rid of your excuses. Stop defending the thing that's ruined your life and get to fucking work. And every time anyone has ever listened to me in history, ever, every single one of them's transformed their lives and messaged me positive messages afterwards. Every single fucking time. That's why I'm antidepressant. Because that pill ain't going to fix you the way becoming the man you wish you were is going to fix you. It's crazy. And then they're going to take one little soundbite. Tate doesn't care about men's mental health. He thinks depressed people is that it's some bullshit. And they're going to apply it to me. I really do believe, and I state this almost with a degree of achievement, I'm the most misunderstood man on the planet. I really believe I am. It's crazy the level. There are people out there who truly believe I am evil, and I'm nothing close to it. I'm one of the most compassionate people you could possibly meet.
Can I give you 2 takeaways just for people that are like, "Oh, Andrew Tate"? Here's what I've heard from you so far. Personal responsibility. Straight up.
Absolutely.
Right? And then number 2, positive affirmation. I don't want negativity in my life. I don't want depression around me. I don't want weakness around me.
Right.
I want to be the best person I can be and take full responsibility for that.
Right.
Those are the 2 things I'm hearing. We'll go on further.
I'll tell you a story, which is going to make me sound a little bit extreme. This is a story of when I knocked out my friend. I'll tell you a story.
I was going to ask you this story if this is a true story.
It's a true story.
Okay, about your boy that showed weakness.
Yeah.
I got to hear this again.
Right.
You know the story? Jesus Christ.
Right. So I don't like negativity in my space. I create my reality extremely efficiently. So no matter what bad happens to me, even in the middle of this shit storm, when me, my brother, my cousin, my team were sitting around, we're all smoking. The whole news is saying I'm the worst man in the world. I've been deleted from everything. They've frozen millions of dollars in bank accounts. Right? Me and my boys are just sitting there just like, just laughing, right? We don't believe in negativity because it's infectious and it's sticky. And even if someone's negative, even if you talk them out of it, it still stains the air, right? If you're in a trench and you're under fire, the least productive person is the person who goes, they've got too much artillery, we're gonna die. Shut the fuck up. We all know. Shut up. That's not helping us, right? It's very infectious. So, and most people understand, they say, you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Yeah. Then why the fuck you spend time with negative people? Or people who complain? Or unhappy people? Or unlucky people? Or negative people? Stop talking to them. Everyone I talk to is like, yep, we are winners. All we do is fucking win. Oh, the Matrix attacks us. Oh, you think I need YouTube? You think I need YouTube? Get fucked. That's who we are, right? So this was when I was young. I was about 23 years old. I had a new girlfriend. Her name was Carrie. And her ex-boyfriend, I stole her from her ex-boyfriend. And if you're a man, you understand that no woman's truly single. You're always stealing her from some other guy, or she's still half talking to her. Oh, bro, she's half talking to her ex, or she's dating 10 guys. You're always out competing other men, right? So stole her from some dude. Dude got heartbroken. Had no emotional control, like all the things we talked about. I was at her house. My car was outside her house. I was with my boy, Tony, my ex-friend. Me and Tony are in her house. She's talking to her friend. I'm talking with Carrie. We're all having fun. It's Friday night. 4 cars pull up. Boom, 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 boom. These 6 guys get out with hammers. Knock on the door. It's her ex-boyfriend. Carrie starts panicking. He's crazy. He's crazy. It's like, listen, relax. I go outside with Tony. There's 6 guys with hammers. It's me and Tony, right? And he goes, bro, I don't even give a fuck about Carrie, but you're going to say sorry to me. I said, sorry for what? Because you stole my girl, you're going to say sorry. And then we'll just go away. I said, I'm not going to lie to you, my friend. I'm not sorry for fucking anything. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm sorry. And then my friend Tony next to me, and when I said that, I swear to God, when I said that, in real time, because I don't take my eyes off the enemy, right? There's 6 of them, but they're all facing me directly. So I was looking in their eyes directly. When I said that, I saw all of their eyes go, shit. You ain't going to say sorry. So now we have to actually attack him with hammers. Do we actually want to attack him? At the time, I was British kickboxing champion. I was known in my town. They knew it was going to be messy, right? And I had one hand behind my back as well. I had nothing in it. I had nothing in it.
Who knows what's back there?
You had to do something, right? So they're looking at me and they're like, fuck's sake. We thought he'd say sorry and he didn't. Now what do we do? And Tony pipes up. Fucking dickhead Tony. Hey, man, why don't you just say sorry? And as he said that, I saw all of their faces almost lit up. Because he inspired, the other team showed weakness, inspired weakness on our side. And from complete capitulation, they were now brave again. Because Tony ran his mouth. I swear on my father's grave, I'm standing there. Tony said that. I turned, I fucking smacked him, strained his mouth, knocked him out cold.
Tony, done.
Tony, my own friend, my own teammate against the 6. I knocked him out cold.
I don't need you now, Tony.
I knocked him and I said, fuck him and fuck you. I'm in the house. And I walked in the house, and I saw them all standing around outside with hammers, look at Tony asleep, and go back in the cars and fuck off. Swear to God, that's a true story. If you're weak near me, you make me weak. I refuse to accept it. I give you a million stories of this. 2 years ago, maybe, we were in Munich. They called the police on me for not wearing a mask. That's a whole other story. I told them to get fucked as well. We're in Munich. Wasn't wearing a mask, blah, blah, blah. We got drunk in the Kapinski, got really drunk, blah, blah, blah. I was drinking with some guys I kind of knew. In the morning, the police had come. They were threatening to arrest us all because we didn't fucking capitulate and wear 8 masks. The Germans are weird. So we got in our cars, we had 2 Raris, got in the Raris, we're heading back to Bucharest. We drunk loads. We were really, really drunk. We stopped at the gas station. We all got out of the car. One of the guys was like, bro, I feel so sick. Oh, man, I feel sick. He was walking to the gas station. I said, and I went up to him. My brother talks about this all the time. He goes, I pat him on the back and said, bro, if you're going to keep walking like a fucking injured antelope, you're going to stay here. We drunk booze. We all feel like shit. I'm not walking around Earth with some dude. I don't want you in my group. I don't want you getting in my car. I don't want you near me. When I walk with my team, you look and go, let's choose someone else. Let's choose another group to prey on. You are the weakness in this group. I don't give a... Yeah, you drunk whiskey. Yeah, you feel shit. If you can't turn it on for 2 minutes to go piss and come back in the car, then get fucked. I had a serious conversation with the guy. Tristan goes, you're so right. Why the fuck? And there was no threats. We're at a gas station. But I can't even look at it near me. I can't just see people near me being all or crying or sad or whatever. You're allowed to feel sad. Of course. Your girl left you. You lost your job. You're allowed to feel sad. That's fine. You feel sad. You feel sad right now? Good. Great. Let's hit the booze. Shut the fuck up. Me and my brother have another quote. What do you want? Therapy? That's our quote. We say it all the time for anything. Bro, I got a hangover. You want therapy? No. Well, then what the fuck? Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Like, why are you even saying it out loud? Why are you believing in it? Yeah. Why are you making it real? We all feel like trash. We drunk 10 bottles of whiskey. We all feel like trash. But we're high net worth individuals getting out of Ferraris in a country we don't have security. Nobody's walking fucking like weaklings. It's a reality you have to create. And when you get your shit straight, it affects your entire life. And men understand this. They say, I understand you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Then why are you friends with all these fucking nobodies? Why are you friends with these losers? Why are you doing it then? Then you're accepting what you're going to be. I love winners. I love winners. Show me a winner. I love winners all day long, my friend. That's who I want to be friends with. Winners. That's who I want to be friends with. I don't want to be friends with anybody else. I don't see the advantage to it. And that's how I've always created my life, and it's served me very, very well. And I refuse to accept anything else because negative energy is extremely sticky. If you have friends who are talking negative shit, try and fix them. It's your duty. But if they're sticking to their negative narrative, you don't have a responsibility to them to a degree to sit there and allow them to pollute your life. Because that's what they're going to do. You have to get to a point where it's like, goodbye.
How many friends have you had to completely cut off? I'm not saying knock out like our friend Tony's probably still sitting there in the ditch.
Watching this podcast.
Yeah.
Tony's
out
friend.
there like,
Tony,
Jesus Christ.
Tony, listen. Had to happen. You could have inspired them to rush me and kill me. On a serious note, you could have been the inspiration for my dad. So it had to happen. I hope your life's going well. I'm sure it's not going as well as mine.
Sorry,
That's
Tony.
how it goes, my friend.
Yeah.
But
how many other guys have you had to cut off?
you'd be surprised because there's so many. Because everyone likes to talk a good talk, and everyone likes to pretend they're X, Y, Z. And I'm quite a fair person, you know. And I love my biggest friends in the world today are friends who I had when I had nothing, and they came up with me. Let's say when I had nothing, I had 10 friends. Now I'm at the top, I have 4. The 6 I had to drop just didn't level up with me. And there's only so long you can pay for them to go to the club, pay for them to go on holiday, lend them a car. It's only so long until it's like, bro, everyone else pulled this off. Everyone else, and I've offered you a job, and now you're sick, or you're tired. It gets to a point where it's just detrimental to your life, and you have to be ruthless about it, because you have to create your reality. It's the only way to do it.
You can't compromise your standards. By the way, I'm listening to him, and I'm just going back to stories myself, because at one point, I went to a different direction than Tate did. But you cannot compromise your standards for nobody. Nobody. That includes your spouse, your friends, your family, nobody. There's a difference between loving somebody and compromising your standards. Those are two different. I love a lot of people, but I'm not compromising my standards for people I love. You cannot be doing that, because only you know how big your dreams are. Only you know what life you want to build, and only you know who you want to be. Compromising your standards, one of the biggest fatal mistakes any man or human being can make. You know, you were telling a ghost story. You took me to a place which is crazy. We rented this castle called Oika Castle in New York. Funny story. You'll appreciate this. So when we rent this place out, it's a beautiful property. It's a $150 million property. I rent out all the 32 rooms, and it's got one of the best restaurants in town, so we rent it out. Now, a couple of my guys who are very superstitious, they say, Pat, I read articles, this place is haunted. So one of the guys, Alejandro, who's Mexican, you know who Alejandro is, Ricky's brother.
Ricky's brother, yeah.
He's very superstitious. He says, hey, Pat, by the way, these brothers, they're brothers. Like, if you meet them, they're like,
they can compete with the Tate brothers and
shit brothers. Yeah. Now, Alejandro says, hey, Pat, you know, I'm hearing this place has got ghosts. I said, it does. He says, really? I said, of course this place is haunted. So now I'm playing with them because I'm trying to say that night. I said, whatever you do, sleep tonight, be careful, because I hear they pull notes and all this other stuff. So I go tell Mario and the guys, I said, guys, tell me when Alejandro goes to sleep. Alejandro goes to sleep. I've taken notes, and I write. I'm watching you. At 1 o'clock in the morning, I slide it, because it's one of these old doors. I slide it under his doors. We go to the side, and we hide. We knock on the door. He comes out. He says, who's out there? Who's out there? He's panicking. Next morning, now we all go to sleep. We wake up. First person I ask us, so guys, you know, last time we talked about a lot of different things. Alejandro, how was your night? This place is haunted. This is haunted. Anyways, but going back to you talking about Logan Paul and you. And for you, you said, I don't give a shit about YouTube. You think YouTube's that important to me? I don't care about being banned from you. You're making this comment, this argument, right? Okay, fine. And you said, we're solving for 2 different things, okay? He's solving for one thing. You're solving for another thing. You know, you present yourself as a methodical person, as a person that's very much about sequencing, as a person that it's about my next 5, 10, 15 moves. Who's Logan trying to be in your POV, and who are you trying to be? Then I got a follow-up question for you on that.
That's a good question. I don't think that Logan is actually thinking that far ahead. For him, it's more about preservation. He's been canceled once before. He doesn't want to get canceled again. He wants to have viewers. He wants to get a big YouTube channel. He wants to sustain it. He wants to continue to be an entertainer, a clown for as long as he possibly can. I don't think he's thinking anything beyond that. He wants money in his own pocket. He doesn't care about the society as a whole. He doesn't care about the ideas he enforces. He doesn't care about the people who watches him. He doesn't care about their mentalities. He just cares. He's quite selfish. I want my YouTube channel. I want my money. I'll say what I'm told to say. He's bought and sold. My intention is to truthfully, and I say this in a religious sense, but it's not a particular religion. It's just a religious sense. I want to live true to God. And by living true to God, it has to live true to my ideals and what I believe is the best for the world and what I believe is best for men as a whole. And I also want to try and create a world which reflects that. And my intention is much beyond a YouTube channel. I don't give a fuck if I lose a YouTube channel. I don't care which platform I'm on. I want to know what I'm saying is true to how I've lived, and that if people emulate it, they're going to genuinely end up with a better life. People, when I got banned, said, well, we don't want people to end up like Tate. And I said, why? I have no criminal record, no criminal convictions, successful, hundreds of millions of dollars, dedicated. Like, what would be so bad if men ended up a version of me? Like, what am I going to do to the world? Like, so, and I also think this ties back to something earlier you said about China. Do you know what the most, I don't even heard the statistic. They asked Chinese children what they want to be when they grow up. And they asked Western American children what they want to be when they grow up. The most popular answer in China was astronaut and engineer. The most popular answer in America, YouTuber. Doesn't that say so much about the mentality of the youth? Right? So I'm probably more on the engineer or perhaps philosopher at least, or at least brave. Like, I'm trying to teach tenets that if people replicate are going to be good for them as a whole. China, we have engineer, astronaut. Logan, entertainer. He doesn't care if he has to make a fool of himself. He doesn't care if it's on a stupid costume. He doesn't care if it's to be a clown. Anything to get, because he's selfish. So I think that you're right, we're solving for completely different things. I know I'm a net positive to the world. He's a very selfish individual. And I think if people try and replicate me, it's better for the world. I think if people try and replicate Logan Paul, well, let me be a clown. Let me just try and make jokes and wear stupid suits. Let me mock the dead, mock people who commit suicide. And then let me just say anything I'm told to have a YouTube channel. I don't think that's good. I think that's actually detriment. So I see him as a detriment, and I see me as a positive.
Okay, so my follow-up here is the following. So during COVID, the first person that interviewed a doctor that got 20 million views that got everybody thinking was Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan interviewed this one doctor. I don't know who it was. I don't remember the guy's name. No. This is phase one. No, this is March of 2020. If you can pull it up, you'll see who it was. He interviewed this guy, and he got, Joe was saying, so listen, I'm being told if I go in the sauna, if I sit in the, steam room and I sweat it out, and he says, no, this is not that. This is this. And it wasn't a person that would have said it otherwise. So people believed him and said, okay, maybe this is something we have to pay close attention to. Anyways, during COVID, I believe Joe played a very important role. Super important. Super necessary voice. I was telling him, we're together, I said, I don't know if you realize this. You may be one of the most necessary voices in America 100%. On what you've been able to do. 100%. So now, Alex Jones will say to Joe, and I've heard Alex say, I know Joe believes this stuff, but Joe knows how to maneuver around it. Yeah. And he's just like learning how to maneuver in. Yeah. But I know he believes me, but he acts like he doesn't. But I don't know, maybe. So, and Alex is saying this about Joe. So then you hear, what's his name? You hear Dave Chappelle does a comedy special. Yeah. And he says, hey, ladies, I just want to tell you, I think one of the most miraculous things you can do is have a baby. Yeah. It's, you should have freedom of choice. Yeah. I'm for you. Yeah. You should have. So all the ladies said, you should have a freedom of choice. But there's a but. If you choose to keep the baby, I can also choose not to pay child support. Yeah. Then all of a sudden people, wait. No, that's not. No, it's not cool because this isn't. Yeah. So then, but some people say, well, listen, he makes a very good point. Yeah. If it's your choice, it should be my choice whether I should pay or not. Mm-hmm. But whether he's right or not, it's irrelevant. It started the conversation. Then the one bit he did about, so I see this card, there's the LGBT, everybody that's in, there's a queer, there's this, there's a trans, there's this, there's that, right? And he calls out the transgender community and they're about to cancel this guy, right? Okay. Neither Joe nor Chappelle got canceled.
Correct.
That's good for society.
Agreed.
Hear me out.
Agreed.
That's good for society that neither Joe and Chappelle, because society needs these two guys.
Agreed.
Because they get to talk about stuff that gets everyone to be on the edge. Now, Joe almost got canceled.
Almost. I remember that came from him hard.
Very much. The hardcore. He almost got canceled because of the N-word or because of all these other videos that resurfaced. And he came out and he did this video and he said, here's what I'm going to watch it, et cetera, et cetera. And then Chappelle took his angle as well, but they tried to cancel him as well. But all I'm saying is, from how we need certain people to be out there pushing the envelope and questioning the status quo. So you're looking back for yourself right now.
Yeah.
There may be a lot of people now. You can say, look, I'm not solving to be a YouTuber.
Yeah.
I'm not solving to be on TikTok. I'm not solving to be on Instagram.
Yeah.
But the messaging is not going to be as visible.
Agreed.
As great as, Rumble stock is up and 12%, all this other stuff. I totally get it. I hope they blow up. I think it's great for Facebook to have a competitor.
Agreed.
But it's not that. Say, first of all, I want to get your thoughts on that, but say you do get a second try at this.
Yeah.
Okay? Say you do get a second try at this. What adjustment would you make?
And that's a good question. And I understand your point absolutely. And I agree with you. The world would be a better place with me on these mainstream platforms. What's interesting is I think they killed me in my infancy. Even though I became the most Googled man on the planet, it was very, very meteoric, happened very quickly. I had already had conversations with my team internally, understanding that now that I'm the most famous man on the planet, I have to curate my messaging. Not say anything different, but say it in a different way. We were already doing that. For a month prior to the ban, we had already changed a lot of the messaging, changed our stance, we said the same things, but changed the way we'd say certain things, removed certain subjects altogether, and we were already curating our messaging. However, they looked at me, and I think that the social media companies saw me as perhaps a 19-year-old warrior who's soon going to become a warrior king, and thought we either kill him now or he's going to become too big to kill. And they decided to kill me now. I've only been super viral for 6 months. If they would have given me a year, the messaging would have absolutely been curated to a point that I don't think they would have deleted me at all. One of my last posts on Instagram was, I wrote this post. I said, I understand that certain people have false narratives about me, and I'm looking to correct them. So on Instagram, I put up a post saying that for every like this picture gets, I'm going to donate $2. $1 to female charity to protect them against domestic violence, and $1 to men's mental health charities. $2 per like to show that all my haters who only talk negative, I actually do something to fix the problem. I take the negativity and I turn it into light, as God would want me to do. I'm going to donate money. It was a 7-day countdown. Instagram deleted me on the 6th day. When I, at the time of deletion, had 555,000 likes. It's $1.2 million. I was prepared to donate to charities. Nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to mention it because I'm evil, right? At the time of my deletion, when I got deleted, the only appeal I sent to Instagram, the only message I sent was, can you confirm the number of likes on that picture so I can finish my donation? They ignored me completely and utterly, didn't even want to reply to me. So I was already understanding that the way you can say certain things when you have 300 views on a video, where most of these views got 300 views, has to be created and changed. Not because I'm saying anything incorrect, but as a professional, you have to understand that things change. And also, no matter what you say, a very small contingent of the world will misunderstand it. If 0.1% of people misunderstand you, that's not a problem when you get 300 views a video. That is a problem when you get 3 million views a video. So me and my team had already accepted this, already decided upon it, and had already implemented it. But the momentum was so strong and the rise was so meteoric that the social media companies, even a month after implementation, decided, I'm sure they sat around and said, we kill him now or he's going to become too famous to kill. And they thought, we have to try and kill him now. Now, they have failed. Rumble in and of itself has proved they've failed. I get more views on my Rumble videos than I got on my YouTubes. When I did a YouTube live, I had around 12,000 viewers. On my first ever Rumble live, I had 127,000. On my second, I had 75,000. So they've martyred me and made me more famous than ever. But the message has already been created and changed. I understand very, very well, because as a professional, you have to take accountability for everything. I understand that if a 15-year-old kid, without my life experience, without my credentials, listens to me, not in full, but in segments, small parts, and then takes it on board, it may negatively affect some of his outlooks. I understand that. My counter argument is this. Find anything on the entire internet where if it's not chopped in a negative way and fed to 15-year-old kids, where it cannot be a detriment. That's the entire internet. That's anybody. We've already talked about modern culture, having sex with the devil on TV, transgenders, whatever they're trying to do, make kids chop the dicks off, whatever. We've talked about all this. So that's the entire internet. That's not an argument against me. That's an argument against the internet as a whole. But I was responsible enough as an adult to say, okay, I'm still going to take that in mind, and I'm still going to be responsible for that myself and change my messaging, which I intended on doing. But they already decided to nuke me absolutely and completely. And that's where part of me, I don't want to be too defiant. I'm certainly not looking to go to war with anybody. But part of me is kind of like, I would have never, ever been controlled opposition because I can't be bought and sold. But I would have had very, very detailed conversations with social media execs and say, what are you truly uncomfortable with? The way you say this. Okay, well, here's what I'm trying to say. Yes, okay, so what if I said it this way? Okay, cool. Yeah. Let's work together. But they didn't want to be reasonable, logical actors. They wanted to just try and annihilate me, hoping I would disappear. And they're realizing in real time that I didn't disappear. So now I'm sitting here ideologically thinking, do I give a fuck what they think? I only care about making sure my message is a positive for the world. Do I really give a shit what YouTube want? Now, so if they do let me back, yeah, sure. I understand certain things have to be created, et cetera, et cetera. But my messaging will remain true. The things I say, I do mean. They are genuinely a positive. And this could have been a positive experience for social media for me. How much money did I bring to social media companies? I'm the most viewed man on the planet. Not a single monetized video. They wouldn't monetize me. Billions of unmonetized views. How much money were they making? Yeah. Like, it could have been great for everybody. But they got emotional, sat somewhere in California, emotional, decided I was evil, and they decided to go the destructive route. So it's kind of like, you know when the Germans tried to negotiate with the Russians in World War II? There was negotiations at the beginning, and the Russians spoke a lot because they were trying to actually negotiate. And then once the Germans overstepped the line and took the piss and destroyed Stalingrad, took a bunch of Russia, when they tried to negotiate with the Russians again, the Russians only asked one question. The German negotiators came when they were losing. The Russians just said, why are you here? Oh, well, I'm here to represent the Germans. No. This is Russia. Why are you here? Where were you born? Berlin. Okay. Tell me the story. Why are you here? And after hours, you end up saying, well, I joined the army and Hitler made me do it. And I ended up getting here. Because once you've been fucked with to a certain point, it's just like, well, I don't know how much I want to negotiate now. Like, so as the social media companies, if they were to finally come to their senses and speak to me, sure, I understand certain messages being created. I understand that. But I don't need them. I no longer need them. There was a point where I perhaps believed I did need them. I now understand that I don't. And that certainly changed the negotiating table. Absolutely and utterly. Because my messages, they've only proved me right. All they've done is prove me right in every regard. I have more viewership, more views, and more dedicated, more loyal fans than I've ever had. All they've done is damage their stock price. You're correct. Rumble's gone to the moon. All they've done is damage their own stock price and convinced everybody who believed in me that the Matrix genuinely doesn't want people to understand my ideals. They have martyred me. They have martyred me now. So now it's going to be a matter of, yeah, we'll talk to you about coming to your platforms, of course. But I'm going to say the same things I say, and yes, I'll correct the messaging, of course. But we also have to have a conversation as professionals for you to understand that you acted emotionally and made a mistake. And it means a lot to me because I'm a principled man. If a senior, whoever, SEO exec were to say, yes, we made a mistake and we're sorry we misunderstood you, that's all it would take for me to say, no problem. I understand that. I'm going to correct my message.
We know that's not going to happen.
Of course it's not.
Yeah,
because this is what happens with tyranny. When you have a monopoly, and this is the beautiful thing about the world, because the world's so cyclical. When you have a monopoly over anything, you believe that your monopoly will last forever. Everyone always has. The Roman Empire did, the Third Reich, social media companies. When you have a monopoly, we're smarter than all the other control mechanisms and monopolies. We're never going anywhere. We're too smart. And the funny thing about monopolies and tyranny is that you have to use force. And force is something I understand very, very well. Force is a very, very powerful tool until it's overused. Let's use the Romanian example, just because I live in Romania. It's the only reason I'm going to use it. There's a riot, there's a protest, you send the army. Get rid of it. Riot, protest, send the army. Get rid of it. Riot, protest, send the army. Try and get rid of it. They won't leave. Open fire on protesters. Too much. People have had a fucking enough. Then you end up ousted. There comes a point where you can use force, but once it's overused and people don't believe in your fairness, people don't believe in the fact that you're non-biased and you're still using force, there is a mass uprising. This is the human nature. I truly believe my banning was that moment in social media. The stock prices reflect it. My views on Rumble reflect it. The public sentiment across all social media platforms reflect it. People understand that they have overstepped the mark and they are no longer seen as trusted with force. You can't have force if you're not trusted with it. The reason we accept our governments to have police forces and guns and weapons is because to a degree we trust them. Once you accept your government is a psycho, tyrannical dictator, you don't want him to have any force anymore. I think they made a massive, massive mistake. And if they don't see it themselves yet, they will certainly. The pressure is behind the dam. The only crack that's missing is for someone to be canceled and be more successful than before. That's all that it takes. One crazy guy in fucking Bucharest. And then you're going to see a mass flood. And I didn't want this war. I didn't want this. This is what social media companies forced me to do. But this is the situation they're currently in, whether they realize it and see it or not. But my cancellation has made me more successful than ever before. So now what? You shot me with your biggest bullet. I'm still here. What do you do now? And that is the responsibility is on them. If they can remove their emotions from disliking me and actually look at the chessboard, they're going to see they have a lot of pressure on some key squares.
Can I push back?
Absolutely.
Okay, let me push back a little bit. So on the video, you're going away, video, you say, I take full responsibility for what's happened. The ban is a good thing. This gives me the opportunity for a fresh start. It's a massive opportunity. I have no ill will for social media companies.
Correct.
Or the haters out there, I will pray for you, but I will not go down as a villain.
Correct.
Your words. I will not go down as a villain. Fantastic. So, you know, the part that I also see that's a challenge is the following, which is very hard. You know how you're explaining in almost all tyrannical situations, they don't know that they have a monopoly until eventually there's a revolution and then boom, flips, game over, it's over with, right? I should be in Iran right now. I'm not in Iran because the Shah thought, you know, he wasn't paranoid enough and he thought he was untouchable, okay? Yeah. I'm supposed to be in Iran today. I'm not in Iran. We were forced out. Carter comes in, Kissinger, it's out, game over, and now I'm living in the States. Now, God's got a bigger plan. I support it. I'm not sitting here saying, I wish I was in Iran. There's a part of me that's thankful for Jimmy Carter, and there's a part of me that would love to sit down with the guy and have a nice, lengthy conversation with him.
Yeah.
But, so, the Shah does an interview. I don't know if it's BBC or one of the interviews. They're asking him a question. Iran's growing rapidly. They got this massive 25-year contract with 5 countries for oil from 1954. It's a petroleum contract he signed. It's coming up. It's 7.
I'm Alex, master of online stock trading, and my transactions are always secure, thanks to Bitdefender.
Because you can't go wrong when you choose what the experts use.
77. It's Germany, France, US, UK. I believe it's these 4 countries. They're sitting there worried because this guy keeps saying, I'm going to raise the prices. I'm going to raise the prices. In the next 5 years, we're going to be bigger than UK. In the next 25 years, we'll be competing with US. And he's the man in charge. And he's got a smirk on his face when he says this. Yeah. And a little smirk on a smile on his face says he thinks he's untouchable. What ends up happening? This is a guy running one of the most powerful countries in the world, yeah, who speaks 7 different languages, possibly the sharpest cat in the world, yeah, in the 60s, 70s coming up. And his father was Reza Khan, who was a top G, you would call him, yeah, a badass mother, you know, at, yeah, the highest level. Yeah. He was a guy that was feared because he was in exile because he was a little too tough. Okay. Yeah. So this happens, and that takes me to another place when Michael Jordan is getting retired. LeBron tries to do the noble things. I think we should retire number 23 because, you know, Michael Jordan, there's never going to be another Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan says, no man is bigger than the NBA. Yeah. And I appreciate that, LeBron, but no one is bigger than the NBA, right? Okay. So for you and where you're at, I get what you're saying. I fully get what you're saying. And by the way, you have to know, we're hoping you're right. Of course. We're hoping you go out there and get 100 million subscribers on Rumble, and you have to kind of follow Mr. Beast, PewDiePie have in Rumble, and Chris is going to be a billionaire. You're going to do what you're doing. Everything's going to take off. Great. But we're also in the conversion game. Yeah. If the outcome is really to talk to people who you can convert, because if you're talking to people that you agree with, you're not really, injecting that philosophy to baptize people. Agreed. What made you necessary was you were on platforms where 80%, 70% didn't agree with you. Agreed. And you were baptizing. Agreed. You were forcing the conversation at the dinner table. Agreed. You were forcing the conversation at lunch, at dinner, at the gym, I don't agree with him. I think he's full of shit. I think he's misunderstood. I agree with him. I like what he said. I don't like him. My girl likes him. Why does your girl like him? All this stuff, right?
Great.
So, I say this again because I'm glad Joe earned saint status. So this is kind of where I'm going with this. Let me kind of flush out my thoughts on what I have. Here's what I see you don't have. And if I was an advisor sitting on a board and you're like, hey, I got 5 people, guys, here's what I want to do, next 50 moves. What do you think? And these are people you trust 100%, bulletproof people. I would say, okay, who do you really have? You don't really have, you have fans, you have true believers, you have 100% true believers. Yeah. But here's the part, what institution supports you? What do you mean? What major institution supports you? None.
Agreed.
Okay, who supports Joe? UFC. That's powerful.
Agreed.
Because Democrats, Republicans, independents, white, black, Hispanic, educated, uneducated, degree, CEO, billionaire, millionaire, broke man, follows UFC.
Correct.
Chappelle. What organization supports Chappelle? Comedy.
Correct.
He's the king of comedy.
Correct.
He is the GOAT of comedy right now. He's the guy at the top.
Correct.
It doesn't matter what anybody say. He is the GOAT. He's
Correct.
the guy that everybody talks. So what do you think you need to be doing if you were to strategically, because like you say, kickboxing is not that big of a space.
Yeah.
Where could that thing come in? I think you understand what question I'm asking.
Absolutely. And you're completely and utterly right. The reason I believe that I'm going to be okay is threefold. One, the Matrix has not completely and utterly deleted me because they can't. I'm still all over these platforms. I'm still all over. My account's gone.
Yeah.
I never had a TikTok account anyway. They said, when I read the news that they banned my TikTok account, I said, I don't know which poor 15-year-old had his account deleted, but it wasn't mine. I don't have one. I don't have a TikTok account. I no longer have a YouTube account. I no longer have an Instagram account.
That's crazy, by the way. You didn't even have a TikTok account.
I don't have one. They watch it.
Although you were going viral on TikTok.
It's destructive for the mind. It destroys your attention span. So I don't have it on my phone. I'm already all over these platforms. The problem is, my biggest problem I was facing pre-ban was a lot of people going, Tate's smart, and I agree with him, but he's too far with the Matrix, the narrative, the enemy, him being dangerous. That's the only problem I had. Nobody said I was wrong. They said I was semi-paranoid. Then I was proved right. So now I've had so many people going, you know what, I loved your content, but I thought that this part was wrong. But fuck, you were right. You were right. You were right. They proved me right about a whole bunch of things. And what happened was actually interesting. When I first got banned, for the first maybe only 6 hours, if you put up a new video with me, they deleted it from YouTube. But now they've stopped because you can't ban everybody. You can't ban everyone. You can't ban thousands of accounts. You can't ban all the young men. You can't ban all the reaction accounts. You can't ban all the haters of mine who can't stop commenting on my videos. You can't ban Logan Paul talking about me for hours. You can't stop it. So now they tried the true tyranny and backpedaled. So I'm already still all over YouTube. But now I have a merit. I have a badge of he's telling so much truth that they banned him. Another thing they don't anticipate is that I've been talking about my ban for years. This is something they don't talk about. When I've been on every podcast saying I'm going to get banned for 3 years and then I get banned, does that make me look smart or stupid? Very smart. I told you what was going to happen. It didn't surprise anybody. It didn't surprise me. I've been talking about it for a very, very long time. Now, the public consciousness, let me talk about this at length. The reason I don't have high-level support yet is because the public consciousness is simple. The public consciousness, companies follow money. They know how much money I'm worth. Imagine I were to endorse a crypto. Just imagine. I never would. And there's a bunch out there pretending they are me, but they're not me. Imagine how I could turn a nothing into 100 billion market cap tomorrow. But I don't support these things because with cryptos, it's player versus player. Some people sell at the top, some people lose. It's normal. I don't want any of my people to get scammed. So I don't support these things. They know how much money I'm worth. They're scared of the backlash. I have had, and I won't say what type of company, but I've had at least 15 companies reach out to me from varying industries, sponsorships, payment processors, social media companies, etc., who have literally said to me, we're monitoring public sentiment, we see it changing in real time, and we'd like to discuss a sponsorship or some kind of deal in perhaps a few months. Everyone's waiting to make sure that, because right now 80% of the population knows bullshit. Once 90% or 95% of the population know that the backlash against me is bullshit, the amount of money that's going to be offered to me to support things is going to be monumental. It's already coming. It's already there. People already love my ideas. You would not believe, I don't want to say the car brand, but there's a particular car brand. Think of the top 5 luxury car brands you can think of. There's a particular car brand. I bought one of their cars. It's a flagship model. It's 1.2 million. I bought it. They did the big unveiling about a month ago. I couldn't attend. I was busy. I sent a friend of mine in place because I had a special card to go see it. The CEO of the company said, please, can you get him to email me? I emailed the CEO. He said, listen, I know a lot of things are going public, but we can't say these things publicly. I just want you to know that we support you. But these are the CEOs of billion-dollar companies. They're all already on my side. They have to watch their stock price, as they should. They have to march PR, public sentiment, as they should. That's changing in real time. This is why I talk about the redemption arc. It may take 6 months, it may take 2 years. The things I say are too powerful and too beneficial to the populace for it not to turn around where people say, Tate is a good man. That's where all of that is coming. It is coming, and you're right. It is coming. Right now, as a company, you sit there and look at Tate and go, we love him. He could get our exact audience. He could bring billions of dollars, but there'll be a backlash. But it's changing. It's changing. I really believe in 6 months that will completely and utterly change. And we can talk about things from payment processors who've reached out to car brands who've reached out to all these people who've reached out and said, listen, please, we're monitoring. We're on your side. We're emailing you once a week. We're just talking to the board. We're monitoring social. Like it's all absolutely and utterly coming because they know that I am a force for good. They know that I have a huge contingent of people who believe in me and trust in me. And I want to say this also publicly on camera. They also know my endorsement is extremely powerful because unlike Logan Paul, who sells crypto pump and dumps, making kids lose money, who sells an energy drink full of sugar and trash, sells crap, they know I don't need money. So anything I stand up for and endorse is because I actually like it. You can come give me $100 million for some shit. I ain't going to take it. That's trash. People who believe in me believe in me. I will not compromise my integrity. The one thing people know when they look at me is I'm an integral person. I certainly have morals because I wouldn't have ended up in this fucking position any other way. So they look at me and go, if he endorses something, people are going to believe him. And I won't endorse anything I don't believe, so they're right. So any brand who comes along and does business with me is going to make a bunch of money. Let's look at Rumble. Rumble were the brave ones. They stood up and they signed me. They come up, they said, look, we believe in you, we believe in what you're saying. They signed me when no one else would. Look what happened to their stock price. 30%? A stock? In a bear market? In a recession? Like, people are paying attention to this shit. So this is all coming. We're just waiting for public sentiment to shift, and it is shifting in real time. I have my own team monitoring social media comments in real time. At the height of the shitstorm, at the true height of the shitstorm, it was 50-50. It's currently 80-20. It's only going one way. They can't. The problem with the social media companies in the Matrix, they fired all their bullets. They can't start printing again that I'm a misogynist. They can't get the Daily Mail to do a new story on how I'm dangerous. They've done it all. They've run out of ammo, and I'm still alive. They've emptied the clip, and it hurt me, but I got up. And now they're like, click, click, shit. What else are they going to do? What are they going to do? What are they going to say about me now?
Can I tell you why?
Sure.
Well, because you talk about institutions being behind certain high-profile individuals. State status you referred to. While Joe Rogan, you couldn't cancel Joe because UFC's behind him, or Chappelle.
Well, he said he was 12 to 24 months away from Joe. He wasn't there
yet. No, not yet.
Yeah.
But the institution, it's not a formal institution, but it's certainly an institution, is you've won the hearts and minds of young men across the planet.
Right.
And even if you get canceled on social media, you still have millions and millions of young men that's like, where's Tate? We want Tate.
And this is why they killed me early. They killed me early because they knew I was going to get to this status. But the problem they don't understand is that inside of every single young man, there's a rebel. Whether it's the punk rock rebels, whatever it is, every single young man has a degree of rebel in him. Mm-hmm. So when you take their hero and martyr him, what does that do? It solidifies the rebel status. You wouldn't believe, I've had 17-year-old kids from Slovenia email me trying to give me their life savings of $2,500. Anything to help you. The amount of money they're trying to, I don't need money. Thank you. These kids will do anything to keep me alive. Like it's true belief. It's true belief. That's why they tried to annihilate me. They thought we have to annihilate him now. He's going to get to a point where he can't be annihilated. But it didn't work. In fact, it re-solidified it. I had to find other platforms. Perhaps it slowed it down, whatever. but the hearts and minds are still there. There was a video that was on my Instagram of when I went to Slovenia. Slovenia. I've never been to Slovenia in my life. I turned up in the Chiron. I parked outside a hotel. I don't know if you guys seen it. There are 5,000 or 10,000 people outside the hotel screaming, top G, top G, top G. I'm in the room with these two chicks, and they're looking at me and looking at each other like, fuck. I was like, you're getting top G tonight. Like, they get top G, top G. They were standing there for hours. We had to call the police. They're like, it's a different level of movement. And that's what they're scared of. And I also want to say this publicly to them because I believe they are watching. I'm not the enemy to the systematic powers. I'm actually very intelligent. When you're saying earlier about Logan knowing his place, I'm not here to try and become king of Earth. I'm not here to get suicided. I'm not here to do any of that. But I do have a huge contingent of young men who believe in me. And I do understand that the things I'm teaching them are good for them. And by extension, it will be good for society. I'm not trying to take over the world, right? I'm not trying to do that because I don't want to end up in a position where I'm against the people who run the world. I'm not stupid. But their attack has failed. So now they have to sit and if they have a brain, analyze what they're going to do next. Saint status is coming one way or another. I truly and utterly believe that. I'm already having conversations with very important people. And Rumble were the first people who stood up to me and said, you know what? We've got your back 100%, including financially. And they offered me a huge financial incentive. And I said, you know what? Don't worry about that. You keep the stocks. Don't worry about it. Because I don't need money. And when you don't need money, it also puts you in a very, very powerful position. It's very rare you find a man who has that much influence who doesn't want money. I don't want money. I believe in what you're saying. Let's do it. I believe in this. Let's do it. I don't need money. I believe it. I really believe, and perhaps you'll disagree with me because you have more money than I do. Once you get past a certain number of million, life's the same. What are you going to buy? How many steaks can you eat? Like, I don't gamble. I don't take drugs. Like, you eat, vodka's cheap. I have my house. I have 27 cars. There ain't nothing to buy. I have diamond watches. I'm really, although I talk about making money and I talk like I'm a money-oriented person, I do that because you cannot truly escape from the matrix if you're poor because they use that as a control mechanism against you. But once you get past that, it doesn't matter if you have 50 million or 75 million. Your life's the same. Or 100 million. Your life's the same. I don't need more money. It's not interesting to me. What's interesting to me is living a life that's true to God. I like being able to go to sleep at night knowing I'm happy with myself and who I am. I like knowing the things I say on podcasts are a good, genuine influence on the world. I like if something bad happens to me, which happens to everybody, I can go to sleep knowing that karma is going to reward me because I'm a positive influence. I don't need to sell my soul for money. This is the thing that Logan does not yet understand. He still thinks selling his soul is worth it. It's not worth it for money. I don't need money. It's not about money for me on any level. It never will be. So I do believe Saint status is coming. You have a very, very powerful point. And also, this is why you have a level of power control I don't yet have, right? You have a certain status and power, you're right, that I don't yet have. But I do certainly and utterly believe it's coming just because of the feedback I've had. It's been absolutely monumental. On the day of my banning, I got 94,000 emails. 94,000 people took time out of their life to just email me support. It's insane. It's insane. They haven't tricked anybody. They've just proved me right.
You know what's the crazy thing about, in America, my dad says, if they want to see you fall in America, they'll do it. America loves seeing a personality fall. But what they love even more than that is redemption. It's a very big infatuation Americans have with that. So you think about Tyson coming out, knocking everybody, boom, he loses to Buster Douglas. Oh my gosh, Buster Douglas is, and then now he's coming back up. They want to see the new Tyson. So there's a part of anybody that's going through the momentum, the highly exponential momentum, Tyson experience, your experience, it doesn't happen too often. Most people, they grow 12%, 24%, they grow. Very few go like this. Yours was exponential. But the part that's exciting, most people, you're not 55. You're not 45. You're 35, 36 years old, which means the evolution that's most exciting about watching you is, which I hope you don't take your foot off the pedal. I hope you push full throttle with the Rumble. I hope you full on keep going with your content because you're going to evolve. Something's going to happen in your life the next 5 years. You're going to evolve. Something's going to happen by the time you're 45. You're going to evolve. And then you're going to talk about different things. And some perspectives are going to change. Some perspectives are going to adapt. That's what makes the journey of the hero exciting because everybody learns as you're going through it.
Absolutely and utterly. And that's one of the most beautiful things about being human. And I was talking earlier about the redemption arc, and you mentioned earlier in my final video how I said I'm glad that this ban happened to me. And one of the reasons I was glad is because it gave me a chance to address the consciousness of the world. There were certain rumors about me which had spread like wildfire. And the unfortunate reality of the internet is, if there's a rumor about you, no matter how many times you dispel it, if there's more clicks and more interest in perpetuating the rumor, that's what people are going to do. And this ban is, to a degree, a chance for a fresh start, because it allows me to discuss all the rumors. People talked about me hitting a girl with a belt and me being a woman beater. That same woman has made 3 videos subsequently, 3, saying it was consensual, it was a long time ago, he's still a good friend of mine. But no matter how many videos she makes, right? The video of her saying this is bullshit gets 10,000 views. And the video of me being a woman beater gets millions of views. That's the nature of the internet. So you need a mass extinction event. You need something big to happen to address it. The other big thing that's against me is the fact that my house was raided by Romanian police. And people talk about me being a people trafficker. And that's a really, really interesting one. It's interesting because I actually kind of think it's a perfect storm. Some of the other things I say about accessible corruption, or the fact that I live in Romania, which has a bad reputation, makes people think, so he's a criminal over there and he can get away with it, etc. Let me tell you something about Romania. They have a bad reputation for a few things. And one of them is people trafficking, which is age old. That was from the 90s. It's not the case anymore. Not at all. But they're very sensitive about it. The number one crime you'll get in trouble for in Romania is exactly that. It's the one thing that they're very sensitive about. It's the image of their country. They're not going to allow some guy to make their whole country look bad. It's like going to Dubai and bragging about fucking being a financial criminal or something. Like, no. That makes Dubai look bad. So that's the one thing you'll get in trouble for. I wasn't doing it. What happened was, and I've explained this at length, I was swatted. Loads of people have been swatted. Someone called the police with a fictitious story, a complete false story. We were having a party at our house. There was a bunch of girls there. My brother and I got bored, decided to go to the casino. We don't gamble heavily, but we wanted to go play poker. We went to the casino, left the party unattended. There was like 20 girls there in our PA. So there's only girls in the house. This is all on CCTV. This is the reason I'm not in jail. The girl gets a phone call. It's her boyfriend in America, somewhere in Massachusetts. I saw you on Instagram story. That's Tate's house. The girl, who's from Miami, actually flew over to meet Tristan. She messaged her on Instagram. The girl said, yeah, but I didn't want to be here. I'm trying to leave, and hung up. So her boyfriend, I don't know, simps, bro. I don't know if he believed her. I don't know if he was jealous of us. I don't know what. Calls the American embassy in Romania and said, my girlfriend's being held against her will in this house. Now, I have absolute respect for the Romanian authorities. I would hate to live in a country where they get a phone call saying a woman is kidnapped and they don't bother to do anything about it. That would be a terrible country to live in. Of course they strapped up. Of course they turned up. They were very, very respectful. They turned up. They were all strapped, but they were very respectful. Andrew, because I'm known in the country. Andrew, Tristan, we've heard this report that it was a very cordial conversation. Well, look around the house. No one's here. We have CCTV in our whole house. They went to the cameras. They saw the girl on the phone, go out, get a pizza, come back, get an Uber home. They're like, well, this is bullshit. It's like, well, obviously it's bullshit. I was swatted. A guy effectively just made up a false reason and called me. Took us to the police station, do some paperwork. They came to the house initially to search the house at 5. By 8 p.m., we went to the police station, do some paperwork. By 8:45, we were released. That's it. No one talks about that. Tate's house was raided for human trafficking. He's a human trafficker. His house was raided for human trafficking. I have no charges. I'm not on bail. There's no criminal investigation. It's over. It's done. But the nature of the internet, Tate being a human trafficker gets clicks. Some girl lying doesn't get clicks. That's the nature of the internet. So I don't get a chance to dispel these things unless there was a mass banning event. And when I was talking to my team saying, look, we have to change the public image, we have to change the way it creates certain things in the month before the ban, we were discussing how do we fix these rumors. And it's hard because especially when you have massive detractors, people who hate me don't want to tell the truth. They hate me. They just want to take anything they can get to attack me. Like I said, they can't attack my physicality or my success, so they have to attack whatever they can get. So there are people on the internet who repeat the same lie on repeat because that's all they want to say. So it was actually a blessing in disguise. So there's no people trafficking charges. I'm not a people trafficker. The woman's come forward saying many times I don't beat women. Like all these things are complete false narratives. And that's why the banning was a good thing because it allows me to finally get everyone's attention and say, listen, calm down. I know I'm top G, but you can't just be a human trafficker and run around the world and get away with it. Like that's insanity. That's crazy.
It's almost like a fresh start, clear the air. All right, after the smoke's gone, let's see what we got.
It is. It's a fresh start. And although I don't believe my enemies and detractors are logical enough and intelligent enough and also non-emotional enough to accept it's a fallacy and simply stop saying it, what it does do is the Matrix has fired every bullet it has. It's the empty clip. They fired the he's a people trafficker thing. It's been proven false. They can no longer repeat it. They can't take the bullet back and reload the gun and shoot it again. So instead of having it as a nagging annoyance, instead of having it as the odd bow and arrow shot at me for the rest of human time, I'm glad they shot me with the M16 and it's done. And I survived, top G, here I am. And I can finally understand that it can't be repeated and it's finally gone away. If anyone listens to my content, I champion masculine, strong men who protect women. That's what I champion. I say all the time, people trying to say I'm negative and my mindsets are negative. If you call a police officer in the heat of battle, you want men brave like me. If you call a fireman, you want him to charge into a burning building. You want men with the tenets I teach. We are protectors of society. We're absolutely not the predators of society. It are the people who are my detractors, the ones I talked about, who are objectively unattractive and objectively unsuccessful. They are the predators, not successful men. I have no need to kidnap anybody. In fact, I beg them to leave my house. I'm not trying to beg them to stay. I'm like, listen, the party's up, young lady. Please go home. So it's absolute insanity, and I'm glad I can finally clear the air on that one.
You know, I'm talking to Shaq 2 weeks ago. You know, at the event, and Shaq's at the MGM Grand Arena. We're having a conversation, and I said, "So tell me about your upbringing, your relationship, values, and principles that your dad taught you." And he says, "My dad would tell me, if you listen to me, I'll make you the most dominant big man of all time." So your dad told you that. He told me that. Okay, what else? And all these other stories you hear about with Shaq and his dad. You know, his dad would say, finish this. He was a drill sergeant, so everything was yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. He had that kind of a dad, very much of a disciplinarian, right? Who raised him. What are some stories with your pops? You know, you obviously a lot of it has been heard. Yeah. But what are some stories about your dad on how he raised you and Tristan?
Yeah, my father was, I believe, the best father on the planet. I think that every son should hopefully think the same of their father. I think a father's role is to be a superhero. I think a father's role is I think one of the big mistakes in modern society is that people think that a father should be a second mother, and I disagree. I think a father should be a superhero. Sometimes a superhero needs to go do superhero things. My father wasn't always home. He was away. But when he came home with a story. And I think that the quality of his presence was more important than the quantity of his presence. He raised us with absolute duty to our last name. He made it very, very clear for a very long time that being a Tate means something and that you have to live an honorable life and a life that's true to God because of that. And also his expectations to us were exceptionally high because we were Tates. When I did something fantastic, when I became state chess champion at the age of 5, or when I did exceptionally well my SATs, he moved me up 2 grades, etc. I didn't come home and say, Dad, I did this, and go, wow, good job. He was like, well, you're a Tate. Duh. Well, who are you competing against? I was like, well, the other kids at school. Who are they? Don't know. Exactly. You're a Tate, of course. So he always had this huge expectation of us and made it clear that the last name means something and we have to stay true to it. And I think that this is kind of something that's missing from modern society. When you have a duty to your bloodline and a duty to your ancestors, that is something which you carry with yourself away from cameras and away from the eyes of the outside world. So it's been something that's been massively beneficial to me. Even when I went through hard times in my life, I understood that being a Tate prevented me from doing anything that's detrimental to myself. Even basic things. We talked about, let's say, heartbreak. If I had my heart broken when I was young, instead of chasing a girl and embarrassing myself, I could sit in my room alone and think, I'm a Tate. I can't do that. I can't. That's not how Tates act. Love you very much. Goodbye. And I missed her with all my heart, but that was the game. Just let her go fuck someone else and just be heartbroken a while and get over it. Because I felt a duty to my last name. So what he did exceptionally well was instill duty to the bloodline and duty to the ancestors. We understood who my family were, understood where we came from, knew who my grandfather was, my great-grandfather was, etc. And he always had very, very high expectations of me. And it's often interesting. People say, you know, if you have too high expectations on kids, it's bad for them, da-da-da. I can only talk from my personal experience. The fact that such high expectations were held for me were a massive benefit to me. My father was a disciplinarian. He was also in the Air Force. If I fucked up, he hit me. He never beat me. He never abused me. But there was certainly a realm in which if I fucked up, I get slapped. It only happened twice maybe, ever. but I knew it was an option.
Your father's only hit you twice.
Twice in my life, yeah. And I say this, I said this on Twitter when I had a Twitter account. Someone was saying that hitting kids is bad. I said, yeah, I understand. You can't abuse kids. It's a fine line. I know it's a very nuanced, detailed argument. But in the real world, there are lines that if you cross, violence appears. If I get in your face as a man and start running my mouth, sooner or later, it becomes physical. That's the real world. So as an upbringing of a child, I think there should be lines that if they're crossed, violence appears. I don't see anything wrong with that. I was never abused in any way, but if I really fucked up, and both times now in hindsight, I fucked up massive. And I learned. And I was taught, oh shit, that's a line. And I think especially with young men, if there's never going to be a physical line, what line is there? Especially with young, rebellious men. I don't know. But maybe that shaped my mindset for a long time because I always understood there are lines that if you cross, things become physical. And I've always kept that in mind for how I conduct myself. I say this all the time. Once again, I said this in YouTube videos. I don't argue with people. If I get in a disagreement on the street, I don't argue. I don't, hey, bro, you parked. That's not who I am. I'm like, okay, bro, leave it. I leave it to the last second until I feel like there's no other choice, and then it's pure violence. Because I don't see the point in arguing. That's feminine to me, a verbal argument. Like, I try my very best to de-escalate because you never know who you're fucking with. You never know if they want to go to jail. But there's a line, and it gets to that line where that's the only possible repercussion. That's all that can happen. And I try very hard to stay away from that line, but I've always been very aware that line is there. And that served me very, very well in my life. The morgue and the prison, both of them are full of egos. And because I know I can handle myself, I'm the #1 guy to talk down a fight. But once I realize that talking ain't going to work, I'm the complete opposite. And I think that was taught by my father.
Wow.
That's how I was taught, you know. And
have you seen him fight? Did you ever see him fight?
So my father, I have a saying, which is my most famous saying that I say. I said at the end of the final video. My unmatched perspicacity coupled with sheer indefatigability makes me a feared opponent in any realm of human endeavor. And for the people watching, it means unmatched perspicacity, your ability to perceive and understand the world, pay attention to things, take in all of the different variables, pay attention, because a lot of people don't. Coupled with indefatigability, the ability to never become tired, makes you a feared opponent in any realm of human endeavor. So if you pay attention to everything and you analyze the chessboard correctly and you never give up, it doesn't matter if you're trying to climb Mount Everest, it doesn't matter if you're trying to escape a social media ban. You're a dangerous guy. He doesn't quit and he pays a bunch of attention. That's a guy you don't want as an enemy. And my father said that. I heard my father say that. The story behind it is we were in Detroit. My father was a world level chess player. He was an amazing man, but he was, to a degree, a flawed man, let's say. He liked to gamble. My father's attitude towards life is something I've also adopted because I've even said it myself. I either want to be filthy rich or flat broke. I feel like slavery's in between. And I said to my brother when we had no money, let's just move to Thailand. Let's just move to Thailand and fight and just live on $50 a day and just run around the beach and have our time back. Like, what are we slaving away a job to pay the rent and then we're broke? I'd rather be, I either have to feel like I'm going to make it or just quit capitalism.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in between. And my father was the same. So he won a chess tournament, a low level one. He made like $3,000 or something. And he said, listen, son, the rent's paid and I either want 100 grand or nothing. It's just who I am. So we went to the casino, lost all the money. Casino's a bad place to go try and get rich, but that's my dad. Lost all the money. So then we were in Detroit and we were hustling in a park. My dad was a chess park hustler. He'd go into the parks and he'd sit down and say, you all get 10 minutes. I get a minute on the clock. And he'd play 10 games simultaneously while they all had 10 minutes each. And he'd have a minute. And he'd sit there and just smoke them all for money, right? And take all the money in. So, and we'll talk about world level chess players because I'll make it clear. I do not have the intellect to be a world level chess player. Even though I have the genetics, it's something you're born with. It's kind of like being a human calculator. It's something in your brain. You can't train. It's like learning to sing. You can learn to sing, but you're not going to be Mariah Carey unless you're born with it, right? The way his mind worked was a different level of intellect, and I don't possess it. And that's a blessing and a curse because I'm better socially than he was. He was not very sociable as a person. And in these high-level chess tournaments, a lot of them are not very sociable people. And we could talk about that at length, but so he made some money. We went to a gas station in Detroit, and I remember this vividly. I was about 8 or 9 years old. I went to the back, to the coolers. I opened to get a drink, and I heard all this noise. And when I turned around, my dad was fighting 3 men. And I don't know how the fight started. I don't know where it came from. He had one of them up against the door, and he had him up like this, and he was biting his face. And the other 2 are punching my dad in the back of the head. And I'm a kid. And I just stood there like, the fuck? And the Korean guy behind is shouting, stop, 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 stop. And I'm standing there. And I didn't know what to do, so I kind of went to walk over. And although my dad was getting punched, although he was biting this guy, I remember him turning to me and saying, stay there! And went back to biting the guy. I don't know the fuck. To this day, I don't know how the fight started. Korean guy came around the back, kind of got in the middle. The guys went out, they threatened to kill him. We're going to fucking kill you like gangbangers. We're going to fucking kill you. My dad had blood all over his face, some from the guy, some from him. His eye was black. His eye socket got fractured. His eye was closed. Bumps all back. So we stood there, and the Korean guy started panicking, saying, my store damaged, my store. Wait, police, wait, police, wait, police. And I think my dad was a bit disoriented. He never went down, but I could tell he was a bit dizzy. So my dad stood there, and he stood like this, like in like military position, stood in the corner of the place, and we waited for the police officer to come. And the police officer came and start doing reports, ask what happened, start talking to reports, etc. And the police officer said to my dad, so you fought these 3 guys. He goes, okay, well, what's your job? My dad said, I'm a chess player. And the police officer said, well, maybe you should have been something else. And my dad said, my unmatched perspicacity, coupled with sheer indefatigability, makes me a feared opponent in any realm of human endeavor. I remember him saying that was his answer to the police officer. The police officer was like,
yeah, how do you spell perspicacity?
Hey, bro.
Unfatigability.
He wrote it down.
Yeah.
And that was a saying that my dad started using then on after, and I adopted. So that's the only time I ever saw him fight. And he didn't win. I mean, the guy got fucked up, but he didn't go down. I mean, he dealt with all 3 of them, and they left in the end. So that's the only time I ever.
Did you see rage in him? Like, did you know he had the rage, or no? His personality was a different personality.
No, my father certainly not really had rage. My father was a super unique individual. It's hard for me to even explain. You have to imagine a big black guy, big physically dominating, dangerous guy, who's a chess genius, but also he was extremely condescending, but I understand why he was the way he was. When you're wired like he is, everyone is a moron. And when I say he had photographic memory, everyone goes, oh, I know someone's photographic memory. No, you don't. I'm talking about, what's your phone number? Cool. 6 years later, just on a payphone. Like, it's like, how the fuck? Just everything you told him, he remembered. Everything. And that becomes a detriment, because if you remember and you pay attention, if you remember every number plate of every car around you, then you're in a car with the guy, and he's like, last Thursday, that car was beside us. Dad, was it? I don't know. Of course you don't know. You don't know, but I do know. That car was beside us next Thursday. Do you believe in coincidences? Like, well, maybe it is a coincidence. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. And then you can't argue with him, because you don't know if he's like, well, you're not smart enough to remember all the number plates, son. So you just leave this to fucking me. And then you turn off the road because this dude might be following you. And I'm not saying he was paranoid. I'm saying the world he lived in was a scary world, if that makes sense. Because he remembered everything all the time. And it also means you can't really function in society, because you can't have a job. You can't listen to anybody. You can't socialize with anybody, because everyone's a fucking moron. So he had a huge, my father got diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. And I do believe he had it, and people say I have it, but I don't. When you have true narcissistic personality disorder, you truly believe you're almost invincible. Does that make sense? Like, guns were pulled on him, and go, you think that's going to kill me? Shoot me. Shoot me, you fight. And he get furious. Like, how dare you believe a weapon can kill him? He was fucking enraged. Like, that's who he was. So, yeah, he was a super interesting guy to grow up around, because it's weird to be around a dude who's so big and so strong and also so smart, and you have to just accept second place all the time. And then you're arguing about number plates on some fucking Corolla from Thursday. And it's like...
So how did you process that? Was it I'm always going to be in this shadow, or was it I want to make him proud? Was it I still have his genes? Was it we're destined to do something big? Like, what? Because in most instances like that, it's more like, yeah, I'm just going to be his son.
Yeah.
Versus to come and create your own identity with that kind of a shadow.
Yeah.
That's not easy to do.
Completely. And he made it very, very clear. My father was also quite a morbid man. I think because of his life, even in his last years, he spoke all the time about, he had conversations which were, you'd be sitting at the table and he said, are you prepared for my death? And you'd just be like, wow, is that a will and testament? What are you talking about? Like, are you prepared? Like, he'd talk about dying. He'd talk about me being the oldest son. He'd talk about me having to carry the torch. He talked about
How
his stuff
soon
alone.
did he start doing that? At what age?
When I was young. 19, 20.
Got it.
Quite young.
So he died October 17, 2015.
Correct.
So you're saying 19, so that would be your 35, 25, so 16 years ago,
yeah.
2006.
Yeah.
So 10 years before he passed away, he's talking to you that way.
He's talking about death. He's talking about what that's going to mean. He's talking about how I have to carry the family torch. He's talking about my responsibilities and duties. He's talking about the fact that I need to evolve and be a better version of him. He talked about these things a lot. Now, he also used to, till the day I was an adult, he still had a superior complex over me, and I respect it. My dad used to say things like, oh, you're champion now. You know, there's probably only one man left who could whoop your ass. That's who he was, right? He still believed he could beat me.
You gotta love that, though.
Yeah, he still believed he could beat me. That's who he was. He's like, nah, you may be champ, but there's one man left who could whoop your ass. And that's who he was. And I had so much respect for him. I was like, yeah, because, you know, you're right. So that's just how he was as an individual. But I think it's the opposite. He set such a high standard in certain regards that I knew I couldn't just be some normal guy. I'd feel guilt. I'd feel dirty if I was just some normal dude. Like, I can't just be, I'm his son. You know, like in the old movies when you watch Conan, they say, Tate, the son of da-da. I was always the son of Emery Tate, even at the chess tournaments. It's the son of Tate, the son of, the son of, the son of. The expectation was there, and instead of it preventing me from creating my own identity, I was actually the opposite. Okay, I have to be fantastic. And I was cerebral enough. I said to my dad, look, I can't be as good at chess as you can. I don't think I can do this. And they said, well, you could, but belief is a huge part of it. So if you don't believe you can, then what else are you going to do? Because I remember telling him I didn't want to play chess anymore. He said, that's fine, but you're not going to not play chess and fucking watch TV. You play chess for 6 hours a day, so you need to come to me with a plan for 6 hours a day, son. What are you going to do with your life? And I chose fighting because I said, listen, chess is one-on-one competition without luck, without a team, no ball, no wind to blow the ball in the net. What if I fight? I said, okay, I respect that. You can be a fighter. So he wasn't trying to force me to do anything, but he was a very regimented individual, and that's who he was. And I had so much respect for him, and he was my superhero. I wanted to be like my dad. And even from a very young age, even if you were to Google up my dad, Emery Tate, and look in the chess community, they called him E.T. for Emery Tate, but also E.T. like the alien because he was a bit strange. But the way he played chess was so unorthodox that sometimes he had some spectacular losses, but sometimes he had some spectacular victories against some of the top players in the world. So everyone was scared of him because he played with such recklessness that he was like all as blitzkrieg. If you get through it, you survive, you get to beat him. But when it's coming hard and the heat's on, he destroyed some grandmasters so badly that they took like a year away from tournaments, like genuine like embarrassment. That's how he played. So nobody wanted to play my father because it was a risk. Right? Because he's only top 200 in the world, but he's smoking top 10. Sometimes he loses, but sometimes he'll fucking take your head off. So he was an anomaly. So whenever I went to a chess tournament, they're like, Tate's here, Tate's here. There's always the rumbles and, oh, Tate's here, fuck's sake, Tate's here, Tate's here. So the name was always feared. And I think that was part of it for me. I wanted, when I turned up to a fight event, Tate's here, Tate's here. I want my name to mean something, right? I wanted it to mean something like, and that was always very important to me. And I was just told, look, you want your name to matter, then you have to go make it matter. It's not going to matter by default. And if you have good parents, and some hardship and some trauma, I think any man can become anything they want to be.
How did he bring the two of you guys together? Like, what would he say? It's three of you. It's you, your brother, and your sister. Yep. What would he say to keep you guys together? Was it, hey, you guys can never backstab each other. You guys can never do, like when the whole example we given with Logan and Jake, to you, that doesn't make any sense. Correct. What did he say to unify the two of you guys or the three of you guys?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. He was very, very focused on my brother and I's relationship and making sure we're close. And he just made it clear that as you excel in life, you're going to have a lot of enemies. And if you can't rely on your brother, you can't rely on anyone. And even when we were kids and we would argue, I remember one time we were arguing over Lego. Dumb shit. And we were in the dining room and we're arguing over Lego, and my brother ran in there and said, Andrew stole the Legos, da-da-da. And he said, I don't have time for this bullshit arguing over fucking Legos. And my brother was crying because we'd had a little fight and I'd hit him or whatever. And he put us in the dining room. He said, you're both staying in this room in fucking silence for 2 hours straight. If I hear a noise, I'm starting the timer. Sit here. And we're both scared to get hit from him, right? So we're like, shit. So we sit there. And we're sitting there looking at each other, two 10 and 8-year-olds, crying, angry at each other. And as soon as one of us would like move on the seat and say, I'm starting it again. After 2 hours of sitting in perfect silence, it got to the point where me and Tristan learned, just don't argue around Dad, because you're going to end up just sitting in silence, staring at each other in the face, just sitting there. So we just didn't argue around Dad anymore. And then by extension, Mom was like, I'll tell your dad. So it was like, oh shit. And then we just stopped arguing completely. Me and my brother have not had a serious argument in years.
Gotta love it.
Well, if we disagree,
wow,
we'll like, okay, we disagree, da-da-da. It'll be 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
Sure.
But will never, ever argue. We share everything. We live in the same house. All the cars we share, bank accounts, like, besides women in underwear, you name it. We share absolutely everything from head to toe. We never, ever, ever argue. And another key to that relationship is Tristan accepting I'm the older brother. That is a big key to it. Tristan will accept it.
Older or alpha? There's a difference.
It is a difference, but I also think if we ever do truly contest, he will say, okay, well, it's 50-50, and I might pull out this card once a year of that, but you're the older brother. So there still is that older brother
Meaning
thing.
he knows you're the alpha.
I think so, yeah. I think he knows, well, you're the big brother. You're the older one, so thing. So if we're ever 50-50 on a call, I'm the older brother, so that's it. But I also, unlike a social media company, know when to use my power. I also know when to concede and when to say, you know what, okay, you know more about this, or you know more about that, or you care about this more than I care. I don't give a shit, whatever. But very rarely I can pull that card. But he was very, very interested in creating that relationship and making it very, very clear to us that as my father lived in a combative world where he was surrounded by enemies in his mind, whether it's a Corolla with a license plate, whether it's people trying to kill him, whether the KGB agent at the chess tournament who threatened him in Russian. My father was fluent in Russian. He always had enemies, and he was actually attacked and very badly hurt in Budapest in 1998. He played in a chess tournament. He beat a Russian grandmaster, and then he was jumped and beaten in the subway and had to be hospitalized and nearly killed him in a subway in Budapest in 1998. He believed it was a hit from the KGB, but the guy was an ex-KGB guy. I personally think he just beat an ex-KGB guy and pissed him off. Wrong place, wrong time. Eastern Europe was different in the 90s. They hurt him bad. So he lived in a very combative world, and in his world it was, Andrew, they're going to come for you. You're a Tate. They're going to come for you like they came for me. And if you haven't got Tristan, you haven't got anybody. And he always taught us.
Combative or paranoid?
And that's the thing. You're paranoid until you're right. You can be paranoid for 20 long years, and then it goes down. So it's hard to once again say. It's also, again, like when I talk about my father, we talk about, let's say, the number plate things. What's this person following them? No. But that's his world. Your mind is your world. If in your world, we talked about believing in things that giving it power. If you believe you're being followed, you're effectively being followed. Like, what's the difference, right? So he was paranoid, but he was reacting to the reality he lived. And that was who he was. And he had enough unfortunate incidents involving pure violence to know that the world can get violent quickly. And this is the difference between fighting and violence. We talk about this all the time. People say, oh, Tate, but you're a fighter. And I say, listen, I grew up in a world of violence. And even to this day, I know some very, very violent people. And there's a massive difference between fighting and violence. I've seen genuine violence, and it's an ugly thing. Like, I'm a fighter, right? But if I had a real beef with someone, let's say they killed a member of my family, I wouldn't be trying to fight that man. I'd be aiming to be violent. An SUV on a pavement is violent. 10 dudes with a machete is violent. Like, violence is violence is when you don't allow any chance of victory for the opponent. Violence is there's no competition involved. Violence is just pure attack. And my father's been subject to that, and he survived it. But he's seen how it works, and he's just made it very clear. Andrew and Tristan, your best hope is together. You can't do it apart. You can't do it separate. And this is also, I think, a lot of our mentality, even to simple things like girlfriends. Because a lot of brothers, they get different girlfriends, and they move in with their different girlfriends, and their girlfriend doesn't want them to hang around with their brother because they're too busy having fun getting girls, and all this kind of shit. And to a degree, your relationship with females can attack your power dynamic of your brothers. But me and my brother never allowed that. If I sat with a girl and she said, oh, your brothers, I don't like your brother. I said, listen, you better learn. You can learn, or you can leave his house. This is your house. This is our house. You can choose. You like the Tate brother. You like me, obviously romantically, but you like him. He's your best friend. Or you can leave this house. And some girls have left. That's fine. But we've always allowed nothing to get in between us. And I think even if I analyze the Paul brothers, Jake and Logan, I think if you look at their podcasts carefully, they talk about like some girlfriend, they both fuck the same girl and all this stupid shit. But like, he's your brother, bro. Fucking some girl. She's forgot about both of you. It's crazy. You gotta have that blood bond. And I think in many other cultures in the world, this is more common. Like, I grew up in Luton, which is it's England, but it's a very, very Muslim town. And all the gangsters and dangerous people, and even the most successful businessmen, all of them, when I was in college, were Muslim guys. And I was like, hey guys, what's your fucking secret? How are you doing this? You work in a chicken and chip shop, a fast food restaurant, and you're pushing a Lambo. How? He's like, well, I have 9 brothers. I was like, yeah, but what does that mean? He goes, no, because when he used to call me white, when you white boys have 9 brothers, you all get 9 girlfriends and go pay 9 different rents. When I have 9 brothers, that means 9 women move into the family house. They all cook and provide, and us 9 men go make money and we pool our family incomes. How can we not have a Lamborghini and own the house we're in and the house you're renting? It's a different mentality.
How much did the Muslim religion have influence over you?
I think that it's the... I have so much respect for it because I respect anybody who says what they mean and means what they say, and I feel like they're the only religion who do. I feel like every other religion is so wishy-washy that it doesn't mean anything anymore. I don't believe in ignoring the tenets of your own religion for acceptance or for mainstream news to like you. Then what do you have? They say what they mean what they say. And primarily they focus on family and their own. And I have to absolutely respect that. And like I said, I grew up around these huge Muslim families where all of them had pretty unremarkable jobs and they still had property portfolios and supercars. And I was just like, okay, that's the power of brotherhood. That's all it is. I only had 1 brother. I wish I had 10. Imagine there was 10 Tate brothers.
Oh, no, I don't think I'm ready for that.
Imagine the world then.
Can I ask you a question about your father? I don't know if anyone's asked you. I don't know how spiritual you are. I know you said you're a man of God.
Yeah.
I don't know if you believe your father looking down on you.
Yeah.
You said that he had a narcissistic complex.
Yeah.
That even when you became world champion at 18, it's like, you got one other dude to whoop your ass, Andrew. If he could talk to you now and see what you're going through, all the highs, the lows, the money, the women, the cars, the this, the that, the banning, all that, what do you think your father would say to you right now? And what do you think he would say to your brother?
That's a really good question. I don't think he would comment so much on what's happening to me more than he'd comment on how I'm handled, which has also been a massive source of strength for me. Like, if he were to come back to life for a day, I don't think we'd waste much time talking about the Matrix and why they're doing it. I think he already had an innate understanding of that because of how he lived his life and how he was attacked. He already understands all of that. It would just be how I am dealing with it personally and how I'm using it to my advantage. The moves on the chessboard. And once again, when I was saying before about using your last name and the duty to it as a massive source of power, that's been a massive source of power to me my whole life and during this experience. Like, they've attacked me from every angle. They've tried to destroy me from every angle. I'm a Tate. This is going to backfire. They pushed that pawn, and I'm about to fucking wreck them. That's just who I am, right? So I think he'd be far more happy with how we've handled it as opposed to commenting on what's actually happened. And my father was very, very family oriented. The other thing he'd be very, very big about is talking about me and my brother and making sure that we have progeny and raising them correctly. He made it very clear to me for a very long time, the most important thing you can do is have children. This is the most important thing you can do. The rest of it, it's the link to the... He told us that. He said, in fact, on his own Twitter account, my father's not banned from Twitter. He stopped tweeting in 2014, maybe. Tate Terrific on Twitter. You can look him up right now. He has a few tweets on Twitter. Obviously, he's dead. The account's dormant. It's all there. Tate Terrific. And one of his tweets is, love is my link to the future. I have 3 kids. If I could live forever, I would deny it. The better versions of myself already walk the earth. That's what he said. And he said that before he died. So he has all his tweets. And still to this day, sometimes I'll go back and read some of his tweets. And it gives me inspiration. I'll give you another one he said. I read only a few days ago because I read through his Twitter account sometimes. He said, I allow manipulation to see where my enemy wants me to go. Then I use my mind to break the trap and punish all perpetrators. And I like that. So he'll watch the news. I used to see my dad watch the news, allow the manipulation, watch it all, turn it off and say, son, this is bullshit. And he'd sit there and dissect it all from head to toe. So he'd allow manipulation. He wouldn't deny it. He wouldn't say, no, don't come at me with bullshit. He'd say, oh, you have a bullshit story. Come tell me your bullshit story. Come tell me.
He wouldn't say, don't watch the news. It's all bullshit.
No, tell me.
Embrace it.
And then he'd use his mind to break the trap and punish the perpetrator. So he was very understanding of this. And a lot of his tweets are good for these kind of things. He was saying, allow them to attempt to manipulate you. It's no problem. Another thing he says, one of the things I said earlier in this podcast was his. You must analyze every firmly held belief you have, realize where it came from, who gave it to you, and if they have your best interests at heart, resist the slave mind. He said all this stuff, so I'll tweet it out. So yeah, he's still alive to a degree, you know. So whether he's watching or not, on one of my Instagram posts, which got deleted, there was a Povetkin, the boxer. It was a interaction in his corner of the 11th round of a title fight for Povetkin in the early 2000s, and his corner was saying, "Do you miss your father?" And you say, "Yes, that's the father." He goes, "If you become champion, he lives forever." And he's right. If you become remarkable enough as a man, they talk about your origin story, which is your father. So it is my duty to my father to be the man I am.
Totally.
No one would be talking about my dad, maybe in chess circles, but no one would be talking about my dad in mainstream consciousness if I wasn't who I am.
No doubt.
So I keep him alive.
Yeah.
And it is my son's duty to do exactly that for me, to keep me alive. the man who got banned and broke social media big tech monopoly. This is my son's job. So this is what's so important. He lives forever through me.
Yeah.
And he'll live through it and I will live forever through my son, and that's the beautiful thing about life.
Can I tell you something about Pat? I don't know how much you know about, but there's a lot of similarities in your guys' story, right? His biggest influence, his biggest hero in his life, no doubt, is your father. No doubt. And you have a deep sense of history. You also have a deep sense of the bloodline and legacy, you know, past, present, future. That's a clear understanding about you. Pat, you have a similar thing, man. You talk about the Bet David. In this house, the Bet David's, the Bet David, the last name of this, it almost like shapes greatness. My father, I was like, dude, I'm trying to be the exact opposite of you. I had a very tumultuous relationship with my dad. Yeah. But a lot of the story that Andrew's saying, you must identify within yourself.
No question about it. Like the whole Bet David Tate part where Tate's were just the other day we're walking with Dylan. Dylan's my 8-year-old. And I said, Dylan, you realize we have the most powerful last name in the world. And he says, yeah, I know. 30 seconds later, he's not saying anything. He says, Daddy, how do you know that? I says, that's all that matters, that you believe it. You just have to believe it. He says, as long as you do, you're squared away. He says, I believe it. I said, that's all that matters. You're Bet David. So I understand what your dad was doing with you. But let me ask this.
Sure.
So I run a sales company, and my style of teaching works with, it used to work only with one type of personality.
Yeah.
And I realized I'm one-dimensional. Then I went to adjust because I was only attracting single guys that don't have any kids and they're 18 to 25 years old.
Yeah.
Then I said, no, I'm selling insurance. I got to be able to adjust and, relate to the married man.
Yeah.
So then that it opened up, and it was 3 different ways of communicating with 3 different audiences.
Absolutely.
Then it goes 5, 7. So now you become multidimensional.
Absolutely.
Did your dad's messaging resonate with your sister? Because your sister is a lawyer. She also is successful. Yeah. How did she receive his messaging?
Yeah, my sister is very successful. She is a lawyer, and I do think it resonated to a degree. However, I think my father's worldview was so primal and so based in many things which have a masculine edge, like threats and violence and enemies and things that women don't truly consider. I think his teaching style was far more akin to men. And even, I think that's just how he was. I think that it's easier for a man to adopt it. I don't think that many women, and I don't want to be labeled a misogynist, this is just my worldview. I don't think many women have a true, because it's not their job to be, to some degree, they feel like men should protect them to some degree. Most of them, I don't feel like they have a true akin to threats sometimes. I give a million different examples, but if I go on a date with a girl in a restaurant, the first thing she wants to do is put on Instagram instantly. Like, no, whoa. You can't, we're here now. Like, you can't be putting that we're all in this restaurant with the napkin and that's how they kill Pop Smoke. Like, calm down. But it doesn't consider their mind as a threat, or that many women don't accept that there are groups of men right now sitting in rooms, scrolling social media, looking for someone to get. Looking for someone to get. They're just sitting, 10 brothers from fuck knows where, sitting there just going, that was 10 minutes ago, this tag. Oh, Mr. Brigade.
Yeah, Tate's in Miami at the club right now.
It's real. This doesn't really cross female consciousness sometimes. And I understand why, because I think if a woman knew how dangerous the world is, she wouldn't leave the house. So it's easier just to not look at that world. But the way my dad taught and the things he said, it resonated with me and my brother more than it would resonate with my sister. My sister's still very, very successful in her own way, and she's married now, and she's a kid, et cetera, and she has her own man, et cetera. But also, I think when a woman gets married, she takes influence from the man she marries. Lots of different things, but my biggest male influence was my father, always will be. There'll be no one else who can
Well, you
replace
agree
it.
your sister should take the influence
Completely.
from her husband.
Completely. That's the man she wants to be, and she wants her son to replicate the man she's had a kid with, then yeah, she absolutely should take his influence. I completely respect that and understand it. But my biggest male influence in my life will always be my father. It can never be replicated or replaced, whereas hers possibly could.
Tristan's your best friend, brother, business partner, the whole thing.
Everything.
What would you describe your sister as?
My sister's
Just your sister?
Yeah, my sister's my sister, yeah. And I wish her the absolute best. I have nothing bad to say about her. I wish her the absolute best. But the bond me and my brother have, I don't want to say this in any kind of negative way. I don't feel like I couldn't live with my sister full time. Like in a same house talking about, like it just wouldn't be, it'd be weird. I don't know why. I always think there's going to be some degree of disconnect just because of the gender. If someone hurt her, I'd be the first person to be there and help her, of course. But she belongs to her man now. They're married. They're happy. They're in love. They have a child. And she has a degree of separate life. Whereas me and my brother's lives will always be interconnected to the end.
How do you get along with her husband?
He's a good guy. Yeah, he's a really nice guy. Yeah, he has nothing bad to say about me, funnily enough. doesn't want smoke. Nah, he's all right. He's all right. He's a good guy.
We don't want him to end up like Tony.
Yeah. What'd you say?
But you know what it is, though? The whole point is, one, the person has to want to receive the message. Two, the person selling the message, the messenger messaging may only relate to a certain audience. It may not relate to everybody. It's not easy. This messaging that your dad's teaching, your dad taught, this is not a popular messaging where it's like, you know, Jordan talks about in Last Dance. He says, if it wasn't for his dad, he wouldn't be who he is. If it wasn't for his brother, he wouldn't be who he is today, right? There's a scene where his dad's like, whatever, Michael, just go do your, listen, man, you're not a man. You go out there and just play with your toys. We're going to go out there and fix some things. Yeah. And Jordan says, when you're going through it, it's psychological torture when someone's doing that to you. Yeah. Like your dad is doing that to you, is challenging you. Yeah. But he obviously responded to it. He became an assassin in the game of basketball because he received it. Correct. But the individual has to receive it as well.
The individual has to receive it. And also, but I think the modern world's changed because there's a lot more opposite programming to your parents than there used to be. I used to go to school, finish school, come home, play chess. I was never really allowed to really watch too much TV. I didn't play Nintendo too much. I played chess. That was it. That's all I really did. So besides the school teacher and the little bit of school I had, I didn't have too much outside programming from the matrix itself. But nowadays, when you're raising a child, it's far more scary because you're trying to teach them things. That's fine. But YouTube's trying to teach them something else. And Netflix trying to teach them something else. And school is trying to teach them something else more than ever before. And on top of that, if you're not a wealthy individual, your wife now has to go to work, right? Because you have two incomes to pay the bills. So your children are not even at home with the mother or the woman who adopts with your ideals, because otherwise you wouldn't be together. Now they belong to the state effectively in many different ways. The school raises them, then an aftercare program, then internet raises them. So now you have a very difficult job. And you'll see, even if you look at YouTube now, children disagreeing with their own parents about certain issues, no matter what they are, some topical issues, politics, LGBT, whatever. The parents will say, no, that's not true. Well, I heard in school it's true, because they spend more time inside the matrix than they do with their own parents now. And it's very, very difficult now as a parent to get that hard time with your kid and say, resist that. I want you to be this way. It was easier when I was raised. Now that's scary. I think it's a very, very difficult job parents have now because of that. Because the programming is exceptionally strong because it's entertaining, right? And we've all developed ADHD and we're all glued to social media and addicted to our phones, and things are coming through the phone. And that's the argument they tried to use to ban me. I argue that I'm a positive force and there's far more negative forces in me on the internet which are trying to infect the children than I am. That's the argument I have. I'd argue that I'm the complete opposite to it. But yeah, it's a scary world now. It's scary to have a child.
I have a simple question for you, but it's actually very deep. Because you don't understand where I'm going with this. How many times have you seen the movie The Matrix? Because this is a major theme of yours.
Yes.
And Pat, I don't want to let the cat out the bag. You just saw it for the first time
2 days
flight
ago.
here.
Yeah.
Okay? So how many times have you seen The Matrix?
15, 20?
15. This has a major influence in your life. This concept.
Correct.
Right?
It's an easy way for me to express in a few words how I view the world works. I've adopted something from popular culture and I've adapted it to try and quickly explain. If I try and sit and explain that most people are being used for their resource, they're being projected a reality that isn't true, they're convinced of things that aren't true, they're promised that if they slave away hard enough, at the end you'll retire, at the end it'll be good, which is a lie, and they're just used for their resource until they die. To get into that and explain that at length is difficult. But if I say you're inside of the Matrix and they've seen the movie, they're like, what do you mean? You're inside the Matrix. You're living inside of a projected reality and your body heat is being extracted in real time for the machines. That's what's happening to you. They're like, I don't understand. You will understand once you break free. How do I break free? You break free when you can talk freely. This is the thing that's amazing. And I talk a lot about money, but I'm not that financially driven. I just understand if you don't have money, you can't have an opinion. You can't say what you think. You can't do what you're not told to do because then you can't pay the mortgage. If they say wear a mask to come to work, even no matter how much you know that mask is fruitless, you must pay the bills. You must comply. That's the Matrix. You have no force but to comply. It's only when you get to a point of money where you can say, no, my principles are worth losing X million. That's when you can escape the Matrix. Money is a primary motivator to escape. I've always been interested in freedom more than money. It's not about having nice things. It's about having freedom of mind and freedom of thought and freedom and autonomy over my own body. That requires money. Or it requires the complete opposite, like I said earlier. It's either no money, living on the street, or a lot of money. Anywhere in between, you're controlled. But if you ain't got shit and you're on the beach, wear a mask, get fucked. Get fucked. We're gonna take my house, ain't got one. No.
So when did
Give
you
me a fine,
Sure.
go on then. Like, I ain't got any money. Like, so that's the only way you escape. You escape through extreme poverty or escape through wealth. And I was prepared to take either route. I was prepared to take either one.
I want to go into that topic, but I want to finish up the family thing, and then we'll go there because that's a big part of. Look, there's a lot of interesting people to psychoanalyze.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've sat with a lot of people that try to psychoanalyze you and go through it.
Yeah.
A lot of them. Most important person I psychoanalyze is myself all the time.
Absolutely.
One time I sat and I had a list of 83 questions that was given to me, and one of the questions was, who annoys you the most? Why?
Yeah.
Who do you get along with the most? Why? Who do you not get along the most? Why?
Yeah.
And then I'm at the beach, I'm going through this question, I'm like, holy shit. Then you notice a trend. Like, no wonder I don't get along with people like this. Because you remind me of this.
Yeah.
No wonder I get along with you because you bring a certain level of safety.
Yeah.
No wonder I'm okay in these types of chaotic situations because I feel peaceful in chaotic situations. No wonder I'm scared shitless and paranoid when things are too peaceful because I've not lived in this kind of a situation.
Yeah.
So then you're like, okay, now I understand who you are, guy. Now let me live with you. It's kind of like you're, living with yourself. So influence of that over you, what positive or negative influence? You talk about your dad, you said women, what was it, booze, gambling, right? You talk about that. We also talk about the positive influence of that. What positive or negative influence did mom have over you?
Yeah, so my mother was fantastic. She was an amazing mother. I don't like to talk about positive and negatives. My mother was very much subservient to my father, which was a good thing. They used to have arguments, etc. And I think I learned a lot of my lessons, I guess, on male-female dynamics to a degree from my childhood. Like, I remember one time my father was away at a chess tournament for a month and a half. He was away for a really long time. He was at a chess tournament, playing chess all over the country. Came back after a month and a half. Within 45 minutes, him and my mom are arguing. I think she found something in his pocket, a phone number, so I don't know what it was. Started arguing. He just walked in the house. They started arguing, and he came down to me and said, son, give me a hug. Gave him a hug. He goes, all right, see you in a few weeks. It's like, where are you going? He goes, when you're older, you'll understand. Your mother won't shut up. Walked out the door. I didn't see him again for 2 weeks. I said who he was. Like, I come home. Oh, you want to, fuck, it's fine. That's how he was as a man, right? So I learned, I'm not saying that I'm that way, but this is my childhood, right? I saw it. But my mother was quite subservient to my father. My father was certainly a disciplinarian. He was certainly the man who was in charge of the house. My mother did her job fantastically. She taught us how to read. She fed us very well. She made sure we ate good. And my dad's basic tenet was, your mother is in charge of keeping you alive. Food, go to bed on time, eat good, go to school. She's in charge of keeping you alive. But I'm in charge of teaching you how to be a man and conquer the world. So we have different roles. So she's going to keep you alive. I'm going to turn up when I turn up. I'm going to teach you some shit.
I'm going to teach you how to live.
I'm going to teach you how to live. And they're different things. So they had very clear, defined roles. To this day, my mother, she's still alive. I've retired her completely. So the first thing I did when I got rich was retire my mother. First thing I did, because my mother was, when they broke up, so this the sad story of my father, which I've never told, but I'll tell it now. My father was in the Air Force. He discharged. After they diagnosed him with narcissistic personality disorder, they offered him a full military pension, $6,000 or $7,000 a month, saying that, you have this mental disorder, we'll give it to you because you were such a fantastic member of the Air Force. My dad was actually in intelligence. Some right-wing people on the internet think I'm a CIA plant because my father was with intelligence. I'm not a CIA plant. But my father was in intelligence. So when my father joined the Air Force, he got on the bus, like everyone else did back then in Alabama, got on the bus, you go, you do an IQ test. My father did so good, they moved him to intelligence. And my father, to this day, still holds, I believe. At the time of his death, he still held it. The fastest assimilation of a foreign language. So back in the 80s and 90s, if they needed someone who speaks Russian, they'd train a native English or American person. Nowadays, you can get an Estonian or a Latvian because they're pro-EU and they speak Russian fluently. It's easy. Back then, you needed a Russian speaker who'd teach them. So they taught my dad Russian. He learned Russian fluently in 15 days, head to toe. So he held the fastest assimilation of the Russian language. I know that because when he died, I got a message on Facebook, Meta. I got a message on Facebook from a guy who I never heard of, just saying, hi, you don't know who I am. I was in the Air Force with your father. I heard of his passing. I just want to let you know that I was in the same place as your father. I was a linguist also for the Air Force. at the time, I was living with a Russian woman, and we spoke Russian fluently in the house. And your father and I started classes at the same time, and I can say with certainty the way your father learned things was inhuman. It was robotic. Within 3 weeks, he was correcting me on my Russian. Like he was, that's who he was, right? So he spoke Russian and Spanish and German. We were also in Berlin at the fall of the Berlin Wall. So he did a lot of things. So he was a linguist. So he used to listen to the bugs. If they bugged the room, he'd listen to the bug in Russian and translate it. So that's what my father did. But anyway, when they discharged him, they said he had narcissistic personality disorder. And the reason they said he had that is because he refused to listen to one of his commanders. I don't know the exact story, so I don't want to say it on tape, but he refused to listen to one of his commanders about a recording on a tape. And my father was arguing with him about the translation of a certain word. My father believed it was slang for something else. Superior believed it was something else. They got into a personal beef. It developed over months and months and months of arguments about translations. And eventually, my dad ended up being told to sweep outside for 8 hours a day. And I got to the point where my father got discharged. So when they discharged him, they diagnosed him with narcissistic personality disorder because they said he wouldn't listen. And they offered him this military pension, and he refused it. He said, "My sanity is not for sale." And I know that line because my mother used to scream all the time when we were broke in the house. "You could have had money, Emery. My sanity's not for sale." Because we went broke. Because now we went broke. Now we went broke, right? So I remember them arguing, "Emery, we could have had money. Now we're broke." So because he became a professional chess player, he couldn't pay the bills, and we were living in Indiana and South Chicago. We were in the ghetto with no money. So I remember him saying that all the time. So eventually, my mother was English. We decided to move back to England because England has social housing. You get a free house and you can get benefits and that kind of thing. We moved back, and my father stayed there. So I didn't see my father very much from the time I moved. But my mother was always in charge of keeping me alive, and he was just in charge of like giving me the lessons and stuff. So yeah, it was an interesting life. But he was a super principled man. Like he turned down money. What was actually interesting towards the end of his life, about 3 or 4 years before he died. No, it must have been way before that because I didn't have money yet. Maybe 10 years before he died, he called me and said, "I've been principled for so long and the way the world's turning and what American government's doing, and maybe I should have just signed. Or do you think I should have just signed?" He didn't say maybe. He said, "Do you think I should have just signed?" I said, "No, Dad, no. You get to live with a pure heart. You shouldn't just sign." Because your mother's saying that I should just sign it now because I get back pay.
Sign what exactly?
Sign that the narcissistic personality disorder, sell his sanity and get back pay, which at the time would be like $500,000. And I should
By the way, just so you know, a lot of people signed it. A lot of military. I mean, people who got out that you signed, you get all this incredible pension, back pay.
And why do they want you to sign this? Why do they want his father to sign this?
They want to sign it because he admits fault. It's all your fault. You're wrong about everything. You're a psycho. Your sanity is for sale. You sell your sanity for $5,000 a month.
My sanity is not for sale.
Your disability, yeah.
Wow.
So he found out that he could get back pay if he signed it. So he had a long conversation with me, and I said, "Look, Dad, I think you did the right thing. I'm so proud of you." And we talked back and forth. He said, "You know what? Your mother, this is the time we didn't have money. Your mother is a dinner lady." My mother was a dinner lady at this point. After we moved to England, we had some things, but she was a dinner lady. She got like $400 a month for cleaning plates. She had arthritis. She was starting to get bad knee from standing up all day. Because, I'm not even with her anymore. She caused me so many headaches, but I can't let her just wash dishes, son. I might just sign it. I was like, "Well, Dad, the choice is yours." My dad agreed. He goes, "Look, I'm running out of time anyway. I'm running out of life. I taught you boys a lesson. You know what?" He went to sign it. He went to the military to try and sign it for the back pay. They declined it. He said, "You're not crazy anymore." No, wouldn't give him money. Funny that. So let's talk about that's another story. So when he died, I still didn't have that much money. But then after he died, luckily I started to make money about a year, 2 years later. And because he tried to retire my mother, obviously I also have an own debt to my mother. The first thing I did when I made money was retire my mother. So I'd say to this day, about 15 to 20% of my income goes to my mother. And she has panic attacks. Like she'll check her bank and be like, "What is it? This is too much money. I can't buy it." She's like scared of it. I'm like, "Just buy Lambo. Chill. It's fine." So I make sure she's super well.
Mommy Tate in the Lambo riding down the street.
Yeah.
"What's up, bitches?"
So she's running around the world on these cruises and shit. So I retired my mother because that was one of my dad's last attempts at appeasing her. So yeah, she's retired. So I have a really good relationship with my mother, but my mother has absolute trust in me. Like my mother just calls me and goes, even during this shitstorm, she goes, "Andrew, they're really coming for you. I know you know what to do. I don't know what to do." I'm like, "Stay on the cruise ship, Mom. Don't worry about it. I got it." So it's she's not like above me. It's hard to explain. She looks up to me. She's like, "You fix it."
Of course, you're the leader of the household. But, an interview was done with Bill Clinton. I'm reading this book called, not First Rate Madness, it's the other one, Hypomanic Edge. And Bill Clinton's mom was bipolar. And one of the things he finally said is this interviewer is trying to get information on his mom. And he knows that the mom has issues and they're going back and forth. He finally says, look, there's zero benefit for me saying anything bad about my mom.
Yep.
A daughter can say it. A son cannot say it.
Yep.
There's zero benefit of saying anything bad about your mom coming from the son, which there's a lot of depth in that messaging with Bill Clinton. But I want to transition to the next part with values and principles, because to me, you know, certain things I'm paranoid about, or whatever word you want to call with. My wife's like, what's the big deal with that? Or what's this? You know, you're always thinking somebody's after you because of life you lived. I'm like, listen, unless you really fully understand a life a person's lived, you're not going to know why they're wired the way they are. Correct. You know, you're recreating yourself constantly, but there's also the life you've seen. This is the life you've seen. We've not seen the life you and Tristan have seen. Correct. But when I watch you, I'm like, okay, strong personality, high self-confidence, comfortable in his own skin, BMF, badass, great communicator, charming, charismatic, persuasive, all this stuff. Stuff he says about women, 5 wives, all, you know, playing around, constant, all this stuff. But I feel a strong level of conviction in traditional values, in conservative values. And then I'm listening to you, I'm like, okay, so I grew up with certain men that have influence over me. Hey, why do you interview all these mobsters? I grew up watching Godfather 2 and Goodfellas and, you know, all the... And there's certain things amongst them that I really respect. I forget about the stuff about, you know, the murder, the killing, set that aside. But certain code they had that they worked together with, it kept things safe. So this is why we like watching Casino. We like watching Godfather. We like watching this. You ask any Fortune 500 CEO, half of them are going to say, what's the movie that influenced you the most? Godfather 2. Godfather 2. Godfather 2. As much as we're like, well, not in real life, but in a movie, fine, but not in real life. Yeah. But where's the conservative, strong values that you have? Again, this to the average person watching, say, what the hell are you talking about? This is the same guy that talks about women shouldn't drive, women not this, women not this. I feel like it's there. I feel like sometimes you don't fully bring it out. I feel like it's almost like, you know, the saying, I worked with a leader for many years who the saying was, never show hurt. We never show hurt. You never show hurt. You never show hurt. Never show hurt. You never show hurt. And you're like, never show hurt. I'm never freaking showing hurt. Hell no, I'm not showing hurt, because I'm not going to let you have one in over me to vulnerable and then you use that to get something out of me. I'm not freaking doing that to you. Never show hurt. Never show hurt. And then the other side is, but if people are going to really know who you are, you got to show a little bit of vulnerability for people to know who you are. For you, values, principles, deep down inside, traditional, is it real or is it just a pure, you know, confusion I have here with my, you know, understanding of you?
No, it's absolutely and utterly real. And I think that it is based in the natural, I think it's a natural tendency to be conservatively minded if you are masculine and also if you are competent. I feel like a lot of my traditional masculine values just come from my respect in myself and my confidence in myself in dangerous situations. If I'm recently, I was in the Romanian mountains. It started to snow heavily. There was a blizzard. I was with a girl. It was her car. She goes, oh, we have to drive home. I said, I'm going to drive. It was my car. I said, yeah, but I'm going to drive. She goes, why? Because this is a blizzard. She's like, well, okay. It's not me being misogynistic. It's just I know I can drive in a blizzard. I just trust me. I just trust myself. And I trust future self even more than I trust my current self, if that makes sense. So if I have a situation now where I have a play to make and it seems semi-risky, I'll think, well, future Andrew's even better than current Andrew. So future Andrew, 4 years from now, he'll fix it. Let's say it goes wrong. Future Andrew's got it. If current Andrew can pull X off, future Andrew can pull Y off. So we're going to take the riskier option with a bigger reward, for example. Obviously, you don't have to be stupid, but I think that when you have true belief in yourself and you have true competence, you're going to naturally inclinate towards being a protector and a provider and have these conservative values. It's really interesting that the closer a society is to the survival line, the closer people naturally bend to their gender roles anyway. So let's say we take America, right, where you have feminists and hard liberals and all this garbage. If they were all marooned on a desert island, let's say there's a shipwreck, they got marooned on a desert island. one of two things would happen. They'd stick with their Western world garbage and perish, or they would all quickly align to the natural baselines of humanity, the gender roles. The men would build and hunt, the women would gather and look after the sick, and then they'd survive. The closer you are to survival, the more important you are. The more important it is that you align to your gender role, because if you don't have a chance of survival. So in countries where it's harder to survive, they're more traditionalistic. It's only in very, very privileged societies can we pretend that you do not need a man who can protect himself and others. So that's a very privileged society, right? So I think when you have a hard life and you've lived a life on edge, you're naturally going to be inclining towards those things, towards reality and towards conservative values and towards traditionalism, because that gives you the highest chance of survival. I have the highest chance of survival if I focus on doing X and I am this type of person, and the woman next to me is this type of person. And that gives us the best chance. And that makes me a traditionally masculine male and her a traditionally feminine female, especially if you're living a difficult life. Does that make sense? And especially in many parts of the world, that's still true today. In most of the world, that's still true today. We're talking on these podcasts to extremely privileged individuals who want to sit and throw away 98% of how the world functions and say it's bullshit and come along with this brand new thing they've invented for the last 15 years. And I say this often. I say, you find me dangerous that I said something that got me in a lot of trouble. So I'll say it again. I said that if I had to fly, if I was going to get on a plane that was going to fly through the eye of a hurricane, and there was a 50% chance of it crashing, I would prefer a male pilot than a female pilot. Feminist lost her mind, called me misogynistic. I said, no, I think that men are calmer under pressure. I'm not saying the pilot, assuming they have the same skill, I'm talking about just the pressure of the plane crashing. In my experience, men are calmer under mortal pressure than a woman would be. She might panic, and then we're definitely going to die. I'm not saying she would panic. I'm not saying all women would panic. I'm saying if I had to choose male pilot or female pilot for this semi-suicide mission, I would choose a male pilot. That's my life experience, right? Everyone will attack me for that, but that's just the life I've lived. By extension, if I had to drop my children off at nursery, I want to drop them at an all-female nursery. I'd never drop my 3-year-old or 4-year-old kid if I had one at an all-male nursery. That'd be weird. So to me, this is how most of the world still functions. This is how the Western world functioned until 10 or 15 years ago. And I say these things and I'm vilified, but I truly believe I wouldn't be so popular and not so many people would resonate with me if large swaths of the population didn't go, well, yeah, kind of got a point, I guess. I don't think it's that bad. I think a lot of the world is still quite conservative, even in the West. There's just a very, very vocal minority that have all the control of the narrative. They're trying to convince the world otherwise. I think the majority of even happy relationships, the man's a man, the woman's a woman. I think that's pretty standard. Perhaps I'm wrong, but in my experience, it certainly is.
You know, I think would be interesting. You know, a lot of your audience, I mean, it's wide. You said 18 to 25-year-old men, women too.
Yeah.
I think it would be amazingly interesting if you sat down with a room of 80-year-olds.
Yeah.
80-year-old men and women. And you know what these people are called in America? They're older than baby boomers. You know what they're called? That generation.
No, tell me.
Traditionalists.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. I'd be very curious to know what old people would have to say about Tate. I doubt that any of the older women or the older men would try to be canceling Tate to be like, yeah, that's everything we've ever known.
But this is the thing that's interesting, because the feminist narrative, when I say things like the male pilot, for example, the feminist narrative is that I'm a controlling man who wants control over women. The actual truth is I'm a protective man who wants to protect. And being a man in a position of protecting is not always a good thing. I feel indebted and have a duty to myself and my honor. Meaning that if I'm walking down the street with a beautiful woman and 3 men want to attack her, I have to risk my life now. I can't live my life letting my wife get gang raped on a fucking street and running away. I can't take it as a man. So I have to now die. I have to die or try. I have no choice. So that's my duty. But they'll ignore that part. They'll ignore the part where I risk my life, right? And they'll say, oh, but you just want to be controlling, misogynistic. No. I have a duty to protect. I'm calmer under pressure because I've been in more unfortunate situations. I've had more trauma in my life, which has trained me to be more calm under pressure. I would hate to meet a woman who's been through as much trauma as I have. That's not the kind of, that wouldn't make her a good woman. I don't think women need trauma at that level. I don't want women who've been stabbed. There's no need for that. But I have been through it. So I think that in my experience, extrapolation, that men who are successful, a lot of them have been through enough for me to trust them more in a high pressure situation. And like I said, this comes with massive responsibility. This comes with massive detriments and downsides, right? And the feminists are like, no, you're controlling. It's not about controlling. It's about duty. There was no feminist on the Titanic. Then men can die. There's no feminists to this day in Ukraine. The Ukrainian women can leave. You'll see them partying in Warsaw and Prague. Ukrainian men can't leave the country. They're dying in a ditch. They have to stay and fight. Not a single feminist is demanding that the women stay and fight. Not a single one. They don't give a fuck when it turns real. Once it turns hot, then it's woohoo, straight to, what do you want, a sandwich? Sure. Well, what do you want a sandwich, sir? What do you need? Then it all goes back. The closer you are to the real world, the closer people instantly get into their gender roles, because otherwise they get annihilated in real time. That's another thing I said when I was getting called misogynistic and I was arguing with feminists. I said, traditionally, men are the leaders. And in ancient societies, men were in charge. That's because men are oppressive. You've oppressed us forever. That's their narrative. Their narrative is that we've oppressed women forever. I said, no, we've protected and provided for you forever. The reason we are leaders is because if we align with our gender roles, a man's more likely to lead, and that gives us a more competitive chance. In the olden world, where all the empires were currently fighting, if you're not as competitive as possible, you're going to be annihilated. I would argue that perhaps there were some civilizations where women were in charge, but we don't know who they are, and we can't discuss their history because they were fucking annihilated in real time by the ones where the men were in charge. Because you are hyper competitive. You're at your optimum when men are in charge. That's just the optimum of the gender roles. That's the way it works. I don't believe we've been oppressing you since the dawn of human time. I disagree. I believe we've been working hard, protecting, providing for you. If men were truly oppressive to women, why don't we send the women to war? Women on women, it's fair, right? We can send all the women to war in Ukraine, all the women to war in Russia. They can die, and we can sit and we can chill. And we can go to Warsaw and drink vodka. We don't do that. The men of Ukraine and the men of Russia are dying to protect their women. And then they want to sit and say that we're bad? It's a completely skewed worldview. Whenever they come along and say that we're oppressive and that we have the most money and all this bullshit, it's a lie. We are going out of our way and giving up our lives to protect and provide. And this is where it comes to some of the other things that they said against me. I've said a man has a degree of authority over something he has responsibility for. They took this and they used it and said that I think that men have authority over women. That's not what I said. I said if I have responsibility for something, I must have a degree of authority over that thing. If I have a car, for it to be parked in the wrong place or for me to drive too fast, whatever, for me to be responsible for the actions of that car, it must be my car. If it's parked in the wrong place but it's not mine and I'm not allowed to drive it, then I'm not held accountable. For me to be accountable, I have to have responsibility. By extension, that gives me a degree of authority. So what I was saying is, if a woman comes to me and lives with me and I pay the bills and she travels the world with me and she flies on jets and we go to boats and she's taken care of, I'm responsible for her safety if we walk the street at night. I ensure her life is in perfect order. I have a degree of authority where I can say, you're not going to go out at night by yourself. It's dangerous. Or we're not going to go to this country right now. It's dangerous. That's a degree of authority that I have that comes with my responsibility from a protective manner. That does not mean I am oppressive. That does not mean I'm misogynistic. It just means that responsibility and accountability are linked and they can't be decoupled. A captain goes down with the ship because the captain is responsible for what happens on the ship. If the captain gives orders and everyone ignores him, then he doesn't go down with the ship, does he? He has authority because he is responsible. Two things are the same. And once again, people have misunderstood what I said. That's what I said. In a healthy relationship, perhaps in my relationships, let's talk from a personal perspective because then I can't be attacked. In my relationships, I am responsible for the emotional security, for the physical security, and the fiscal responsibility, the fiscal security of any woman I'm with. And by extension, I have a degree of authority over her to make sure that we, as a couple, proceed and progress in the best possible way. It's not going to be 50-50 if I'm in charge of the most important things. It's going to be like, listen, I love you very much. I respect what you're saying, and you're totally right about this. But on this one point, I'm sorry, I'm going to be the man. We're doing it this way.
Well, you got in trouble because, by the way, we're here. Like, I think we're all here. But you've gotten in trouble because the analogy you use is like you compare women to children or to animals and say, I have responsibility over my child or over my dog. And then people take the short clip and like, he thinks that women are like children or women like animals.
Well, the children one was actually interesting because that was a slightly different one. With children, I was making a joke and it was semi-satirical. But like all my things, I'm not allowed to make jokes anymore because Zuckerberg gets upset, deletes me. But I made a joke saying that when I travel quickly, I like to travel with just men. If I'm going to a place for a week, I'll take women. Fine. But if I have to hit, let's say, 4 countries in 2 days on the jet, I like to only take men. And they said, why? I said, well, and it was a joke. We were all sitting on a podcast. I said, well, traveling with a woman's like traveling like kids. They get hungry. They have bags. They need the toilet. With men, it's just military. In, out, boom, no sleep. In, out, boom, no sleep. Pack the bag, no sleep. On the jet, no sleep, no sleep. No. You're going to be military, you can get it done. That's what I said, right?
We have a Marine over here being like,
that's what I said.
Yeah.
When I take my girlfriend, she's like, oh, we haven't slept in 2 days. I'm really, really hungry, Andrew. You like, oh, so am I. Shush. Like, it's just different. So, and that gets taken out of context, and they don't accept it's a joke. It's a joke. To a degree, it's a joke. I mean, I still mean what I say, but to a degree, it's a joke. The analogy upsets them.
Hey,
and that's
question for you.
Sure.
How much like, the story you told about, one day you come home, your dad comes up to you and says, Andrew, I'll see you in a couple of weeks. And he's out, right? Yeah. In the context of what happens when there's a conflict and we all react in 3 different ways, fight, flight, freeze.
Yeah.
In that context, your dad is flight.
Yeah.
He runs off and says, I don't want to deal with it. I'm out of here. I'm going to do my own thing.
Yeah.
Okay. In America, a lot of that is happening right now, where it's a single parent household. Yeah. Kids are being raised without a mom and dad being there, and it's just one mom, mom trying to do both. And these boys, my mom couldn't tell me what to do once my parents got a divorce.
Yeah.
I'm a single mother raising me. I'm seeing my dad every other week. So it's not like he has direct influence to discipline me until I went into the military.
Yeah.
How much of that, like if you were to go back and think about, what if your dad didn't take the flight approach? What if your dad took the fight approach? What if your parents were together? Would it have made a difference in you? And how do you view, the idea of fathers being there with mom and dad together, family nucleus? Because a lot of times, marriage no longer has, the what it once had. Kids are better off being raised with a mom and dad. How do you process that yourself? Because you became successful not being in that environment.
Correct.
So do you see this as well? It depends. There's exceptions to the rule. How do you process it?
I think it's a fantastic environment, and I think in an idealistic world, that's the way it would be. I think the reason it's not happening today is that I don't think many men actually benefit from marriages or relationships anymore. And people are always going to have to require some degree of incentive. I think that we've set up the world now in a way where men are seen as worker droids. They're expected to go work all day, come home, clean up as well, share the cleaning with the woman, no meal prepared for them, not have any authority over the household, and just be a worker droid and be sad. And I don't think that many people understand that men are intrinsically wired to desire respect amongst our peers and in our environments. This is why CEOs work so hard, because they get respect in their company. This is why we all want so much money and fast cars and status and influence, because we're respected. Men desire respect like we desire oxygen. And if a man's coming home to a household where he doesn't feel any respect, he's not going to want to be there for very long. And I think the way you fix this is you need to understand that many men don't have an incentive to be in the house anymore. I think that it's actually would be quite easy for a woman. In fact, there's a couple women who even say this on YouTube. I can't remember their names, but it'd be quite easy for a woman to make a man really happy with super basic things. Just go up to your husband and say, hey, you know more about this. What do you think about this? That would make most men's world. And there's so many sexless marriages out there with men who work their ass off and they come home to a sexless marriage and kids who don't fucking even like them. If you were to just even ask him this question about some asinine bullshit, a lawnmower purchase, for example, he would feel so happy to feel like the man of the house. That's what men need. They need to feel like all this work I'm putting in, all this shit I'm going through, I'm respected for it. As soon as a man feels like he has no respect, that's the absolute end of a man's interest or a man's tolerance of a situation. I think that's the reason it's happening. I know a lot of men who completely love their wives. They love them with all their heart. They die for her. But he's just not respected in his house. He doesn't get to be the man of the house.
Is it on him or is it on her? Like, does he need to go earn it, or is it on her to provide it?
It's a combination of both. I think it's certainly on him to earn it, but also the Matrix programming is counter to him. The Matrix programming is trying to tell him that he shouldn't be allowed to be the man of the house, that he shouldn't be allowed to have any kind of authority in any regard. He shouldn't be allowed to be able to say what happens. The Matrix programming is saying the absolute opposite all the time. And if that's getting into your woman and you don't have that much influence, and that's getting to all your children, you don't have that much influence, now you're coming home to a household where everyone just thinks you're the dude who should just fucking work. You're just a worker droid. You're the slave. You're the robot. And your feelings don't matter and your authority doesn't matter, and get fucked. And this is very conscious. If you watch any Netflix show, the mother is the smart one and the man is the bumbling idiot. Turn on a show. I dare you, turn on a family show. The mother is the one, hey, calm down, I'm smart. And the man's the like, oh, beer. watch any of these shows.
Family Guy, The Simpsons, Married with Children,
any of it, all of it.
Modern Family.
They're reducing the man to just a bumbling idiot. And it's very hard, I think, for a lot of men to accept being in a position of constant disrespect. I'll tell you this now. If I had to choose a long-lasting marriage with a woman who loved me or a woman who truly respected me, I might choose respect over love. Even though they're the same thing for a woman, because she loves you, she respects you by default. But if I had to choose, I'd choose respect. I've been through too much and worked too hard and go through too much in day-to-day life to come home to my house and be having battles over asinine bullshit. I take care of you and I love you with all of my heart. I would die for you. If someone broke into this house, I would engage the invader and die. Please just cook dinner. Please. What do you want from me? What more can I do for you? And once they feel disrespected, this is another thing about the world that a lot of people don't understand. It's disrespect that will drive a man to the most heinous of crimes. It's disrespect that starts the school shooter bullshit. It's disrespect that makes men go to jail for life sentences. It's disrespect. When you truly disrespect a man in a public and permanent way, that's when they switch. That's why I'm so respectful in public. You don't know who the fuck you're talking to. He might be on his last fucking straw. And you just disrespected, hey, you're a fucking bitch anyway, you're skinny motherfucker, fuck you. You don't know. That might be the last time he heard it. I've had enough. You don't know. Disrespect is dangerous, right? And in a household where you're constantly disrespecting a man, he's going to end up depressed and sad for even accepting it. Men just want to feel respected. It's not that hard to do. If you truly, I say this to anyone watching this, if you truly love your man, it would be so easy for you to just make him feel respected. It doesn't even take actions. You can do it with basic words. Ask his opinion on something. Big him up once in a while. And because we're supposed to be supermen and we purport ourselves as supermen and we're stoic, but we talked earlier about how we still feel everything. So when you're a strong man especially, they're like, he's fine. He's fine. He's fine. He's fine. Be nice to the dude. You'd be surprised how far you get. But this is why I think most men walk out of marriages, because they're like, you know what? I'm not getting any respect here. I get more respect from this dickhead stripper, 18-year-old hoe, for throwing money at her than I do giving money to my own wife. Where am I being respected? Well, at least she's smiling at me. She ain't smiled at me in years. And it gets to a point where it's just like, well, I want to feel respected now. I'm working my ass off. I'm out here on the streets. I'm going to the sewers and shit. Where's my respect at? And that's what I think it really comes down to. I think men function on respect. And respect is the number one trigger that'll make a man do heinous crimes. And it's also the thing that will make us do the bravest, most honorable things. What did I say about protecting my wife trying to rape her in a situation on the street? I can't respect myself, and I won't be respected by society if I don't die. So I will stand and die. I can't say, oh, well, there's 3 of them. They can't do it because my self-respect and respect of the world. Nah, that's Tate's girl, and he ran away. I can't take it. I have to die. I can't live that way. So it's like honor. It's like Hirokari, or whatever the Japanese thing with the sword. You can't take the dishonor of losing. Absolutely, they commit suicide. So respect is so intrinsic to men, and a lot of society's forgotten this. And that's why I also think my message is resonating, because I'm teaching men, look, yeah, your life's shit. Yeah, you need to be respected. Yeah, here's how. Oh, but that's hard. Of course it is. Let's go. So I think that's what it is. So I agree with you. I love the idea. But the reason that it's ending is because in traditionalistic families, the woman respected the man. As soon as the respect's gone, now men don't want to be there anymore. They want to go find a new woman who respects them. Or run around and do dumb shit. Or run around with their boys. Their boys respect them. Women say, why is my man always out in the street? Because on the street, he's respected. With his boys, he's something. When he's home, what is he? You don't respect him. He wants to go be amongst the respect. That's why men do the shit they do. It's dangerous shit, life-threatening shit, gang-banging. How many times you heard a gangster say, I'll go shoot him, respect, it's my name. It's respect. It's a whole different dynamic. We've forgotten the respect inside of relationships, and this is why so many men are just losing interest completely. And then, yeah, it's a downward spiral. You're completely right. And then the woman's left by herself with the boys, and the boys are trying to get respect somewhere. They end up getting on the street, crime, blah, blah. It's all just downhill.
Would you ever consider getting married to one woman and building an actual family nucleus like the traditional way? Would you do it, since you don't have to worry about, garnering respect?
That's a good question. It's certainly something I would consider and something I would do. It's not something I'm completely and utterly adverse to. The main problem with me doing it is the way that a lot of legality has been set up. I don't like the way the government's doing things. But let's say I were to get married, I'd get married religiously, perhaps not governmentally.
Sure,
religiously.
Yeah, absolutely.
Religiously. And if I met the right woman, sure, I'd absolutely not do it. But in my marriage, if I meet a woman and I marry her and I take care of her and I make sure she has a fantastic life, and I raise her and I nurture her and our children, etc., I'm still always going to be the man who says, listen, I'm away this weekend. And I'm not going to come home to a bunch of fucking yelling. I'm just going to be that guy. I'm away. There's lipstick. Oh, I'm going to give her a white lie. Tristan, I had my shirt on. Some bullshit. Just eat it. Shh. Move on. Like, that's who I am, right? But all in all, yeah, I am completely a proponent for love. I believe in a man loving a woman. I don't think many women understand how deeply men love. Love is real. What's that film? Troy. That was about a chick. The fucking warring tribe, the warring countries. Like, love is real. It's absolutely a real thing. But what we want in return, more than even love back, is respect. We want to be respected by the woman we love. That's what we want. And I think if the women who truly understand that are the smart ones, and also the dangerous ones, because I've met some female players out of Ukraine and Moldova, and they're pretty sharp. They know the game, and they know exactly what to do to get the billionaire. And I've seen them pull it off. So I've seen it happen.
It's funny, I'm talking to Magic Johnson, okay? And this is 6-7 years ago. And the conversation comes up about AIDS, HIV. I said, there's a couple moments as a kid that I clearly remember. One was when Jordan retired. One was when Tupac died. And the other one was when you got HIV. Because I'm in LA. I mean, I'm like a Magic fan. And I said, when that came out and all the rumors, the past, all this stuff, I said, what made your marriage work? And this is interesting, his answer on that. He says it very quickly, and I don't even think people caught it. He said, because she's smart. So what do you mean she's smart? Because she's smart. They've been married together till today. They're still together. Oh, Magic is still with his wife. I mean, imagine Magic's stories with, Hugh Hefner and the Playboy Mansion and
L.A.,
the party,
80s, 90s, before social media, I can imagine.
And what he did, but they're still together. Who does the credit go to there? Does the credit go to him? Does it go to her? Who gets the credit? That's what he was saying.
Yeah.
He's saying credit goes to her for the family. Now, some may say, well, look at how the family turned out. Look at the kids, because you see the criticism that comes out one of his sons. Where it's like, hey, look how this turned out. It looks like it's maybe working out, but you don't yet know the long-term count. Like one day, if you have kids and you decide to bring kids into the world, you're sitting there, you're thinking about the long-term consequences, because you don't know what they're going to pick up, what they're not going to pick up, what they're going to turn against you, what they are going to turn.
It's super interesting because, without wanting to tell another long story about my dad, I believe, now that I've analyzed, that my father sacrificed his marriage for me and Tristan. Because I think that there was times of massive contention with my mother where he was so principled and so concerned with our upbringing as men that he sacrificed his marriage with my mom for us.
He filed a divorce?
Yeah, so I'll give you a very quick example. I'll tell you a very quick story that surmises it. So they were still together when we moved to England. My father was still in America. He came over to visit. And my mom said to me a couple days before he comes, your dad's coming. We're going to go get a haircut. And I was must have been about 12 or something. Went to get a haircut. We went to our normal hairdresser. Hairdresser wasn't there. Got some other hairdresser. Cut my hair. Whatever. And when we got back to the house, my mom's like, I don't like how she cut your hair. She cut your hair wrong. She cut your hair wrong. And I'm only 12, right? So I'm like, yeah, she cut my hair wrong. She cut my hair wrong. So when my dad came, my dad turns up. He's only there for like a couple hours. I haven't seen him in nearly 6 months. I said, oh, yeah. And my mom said, I hate the way they cut his hair. And my dad, and I said, yeah, they cut my hair wrong today. And my dad lost his temper. He said, what the fuck are you doing? You're raising my sons to bitches? What the fuck are you talking about haircuts? I leave you here with my boys. And you're talking about, tell them to worry about their haircut? They're fucking men. Who cares about their hair? Their haircut doesn't matter. When they grow into men, no one's going to care what their hair looks like. Their haircuts are stupid. And my mom's like, well, no, Emery, it's just she cut it wrong. And then my dad was like, listen, I trust you with my boys, and you fucking cut their hair wrong. So they got in some big argument. So I'd only seen my dad for 3 hours at this point, in fucking 6 months. They got in a big argument. My mom kicked him out of the house. So we left the house, right? So we went to the hotel. And then the next day he called me. He goes, I can't come to the house. Your mom doesn't want me there. Come to me. And I came to him, and we went to the hairdresser. And I was only 12. So this is a traumatic experience, right? I cried my eyes out. I don't know why I cried, but I was upset. He goes, come with me, boys. Why? He goes, you'll learn when you're older. You're going to understand when you're older. You're going to shave your head. And I was like, I don't want to shave my head. He goes, listen, you're 12. You're a kid. Nobody cares about your hair. Come here. Sent me down the thing. Had my head shaved by the thing. When I went home, my mom went fucking crazy. This is the story she recited to his death about how crazy my dad was. Emery's crazy. He made him shave his head. He's so crazy. That is so crazy. But when I shaved my head, my dad said, listen, you're going to grow into a man, and you're going to learn that there's so many things that society expects of you, and there's so many things that people expect of you, and there's so many things people are going to care about, and the last thing on the list is going to be your haircut. You're not going to give a solitary fuck. I'm not going to have you being raised thinking your haircut matters. So people always say, oh, why am I bald, right? So I had hair until about 3 or 4 years ago, and I was remembering this story. So after this story with my mom and father, my mom went nuts, called my dad crazy. He went back to America. So some 3 hours after 6 months because of this haircut thing, because he was so principled, didn't give a shit. So I was sitting in a hairdresser, and I was waiting the guy in front of me, and he had his haircut. And the guy in front of me, he goes, oh, I'm finished. And he goes, oh, excuse me, can you just a little bit here and the top, just a little bit, and the top, and here and here. And I'm sitting there, and I'm just on my phone. And I'm like, who gives a fuck? A millimeter? Bro, you're ugly anyway. No one cares. Like, and he messed around for like 10 minutes fucking with his hair. So when it was my turn and I sat down, it wasn't my normal barber. He goes, hey, how'd you want your haircut? And I remember the story, and I just couldn't. I was like, bro, shave it off. Like, I'm a millionaire, kickboxing world champion. Who gives a fuck about my hair? I haven't had hair since. It's like, get rid of it, get rid of it, get rid of it.
You just shave your head.
I just shave it off, yeah. Like, I could grow a full head of hair. I just shave it off.
You could?
Yeah, I could, yeah.
You just prefer to be a bald badass.
No, I did it at that day, and ever since I've just been like, oh, it's just easy. I can go anywhere. Shave it off, shave it off, shave it off. But that's an example of my father would destroy his relationship with my mother to try and teach me and Tristan things. And I have so many examples of that. Their biggest arguments were almost him being too principled about me and Tristan, and my mother trying to be like, Emery, that's crazy, or Emery, let him go to sleep. Emery, he doesn't want to play chess. Emery, sometimes my dad was like, no, but he is going to be this way. He has my name. So you can leave the house if you want, Eileen. He is doing this. So I think a lot of his relationship breakdown was actually because he was so principled on us, which is quite a unique perspective, I guess. So he sacrificed his marriage, I think, in many ways.
You know what's funny? You always shaved your head. For years and years and years and years, you had no hair. Now look at this beautiful head.
Now how handsome he is.
I would prefer this.
I know you would.
I would prefer this.
But this guy spends $72 to cut his hair every day.
Yeah.
For 5 years, my hair was like that until 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
So what are your thoughts on this
let's
hair?
transition. Let's transition into you're putting the crew together.
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody has running mates. Like this main guys, I use the phrase running mates, where Tristan's your running mate, you're his running mate, and then you got other people. So there's a levels to running mates, right? Yeah. So you got acquaintances, you got, friends, you got best friends, then you got running mates. Running mates is a handful. It's not that many.
Yeah.
And when you create that kind of an environment, there's a very mutual understanding of what the standards are to be at this level. You can go to dinner and shoot the shit and talk to anybody. Hey, and hey, how you doing? Oh, great, man. What's up? How you doing? Man, great, awesome, family good, everybody good, great. And then there's the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and some people try to become too friendly too soon, and it's a little awkward.
Yeah.
Let's relax a little bit, let a couple of years go by, and then we'll see where this thing goes. Yeah. For your end, what code? Not you and Tate, because not you and Tristan.
Yeah.
Set that one aside. I'm talking about anybody else, non-blood.
Yeah.
And I'm not even talking cousin, by the way. I'm talking non-blood.
Yeah.
Anybody that's non-blood, that's in the inner circle of Tate, and it's a handful of people on that list. What are some codes all of you follow that's non-negotiable?
Absolutely. That's a fantastic question, and I know exactly how to answer it. So the first things first is I do not like to hang around with men who suffer from a lack of women, because in my experience, any man who can't get women will eventually sell you out for women. It's too powerful a force. Too powerful a force. If you're completely sex deprived all the time, sooner or later you're going to sell your boys out for sex, whether it's his ex or some girl talking bad about your boy, but you really want the pussy, so you let her slide. If you're not good with girls, I don't want to talk to you. Second thing is money. You haven't got to be rich, but if you're starving, you're going to try and sneak some money out of somebody, right? If you can't eat, you'll do anything for food. If you can't pay the bills, you'll do anything for money. That means whether it's a plea bargain, whether it's trying to rob me, whether it's money sitting around my house. I don't want to talk to extremely broke people. I don't want to talk to extremely sex deprived people for the same reason I wouldn't have a whole bunch of food around a hungry person. Same reason. It's the first two things. Next thing is loyalty, and I know that's super hard to judge, but I really like to believe that the few people I hang around with, if we were all in separate police interviews and they were to come and say, hey, your boy turned, I could literally burst out laughing. Say, bro, you better come with a new story, G. You better go away and think about it and come back. We can talk, but don't try that one. Try again. So loyalty is very, very important. Next is bravery, because can't fight is fine, but won't fight is unacceptable in every level. If I'm with my 5 friends and I'm going toilet in the club and I come back and I see someone punch one of my friends, I am annihilating anybody in that guy's crew. We'll find out why later. My guy could have been wrong. It could have been my guy's fault. I'm just hitting him. I'm just knocking everyone. When everyone everyone's asleep and the threat is neutralized. I'm like, bro, what the fuck was that? But I started it. I was like, oh, fuck it. Well,
Ask for forgiveness later.
First, people have to pay, right? We'll worry about the whys afterwards. So they have to have that loyalty and that devotion to the bravery, the ability to fight. I find it very crazy. I find it crazy, and I say this often to guys. I say, you're rolling around with these men who won't even fight to protect you because they're cowards. So they'll watch you get your head stomped to death and cower out and not even try and help you. And they'll be like, yeah, but he's funny. But he's funny? We're talking about life and death. You're talking about fucking funny? Like, so if I can smell on someone that they wouldn't even attempt, I don't want to be anywhere near them for the same reason. And general professionalism. I've developed a habit where I punish myself for the smallest unprofessional actions. If I misplace my keys or misplace my phone, and it takes me more than 10 minutes to find it, I'll punish myself for that. Regardless, whether it's I don't spend money this week, or I don't go here, or I'm canceling that, or I'm going to defer buying something I want to buy. I punish myself religiously so that next time I put my phone down, I know where I put my phone. Next time I put it down, I know where I put it. All the time. When I put it down, I know where my phone is. So when I'm around people like, hey, I lost my keys, or hey, bro, I forgot. When I'm around sloppy people, I don't like it. I like people who have their lives in order. When I detect sloppiness, I don't really want them too close to me, because gaps are where things sneak in. Other things are basic OPSEC, really basic OPSEC. I like that if I'm around my friends, if I'm ever sitting with my back to a room, this is an enclosed environment, but in a normal restaurant, I never sit with my back to the room. But if I have to do it, I like that I never do it. But if I have to do it, the people I roll with, they'll literally give me a nod. We'll sit down at dinner and I have to sit here, they'll go. And they'll pay extra attention for me because I can't see behind me. I like that level of professionalism. I like that. I like people, like I said, don't get weak, no hangovers, no crying their eyes out, no cowardice. It's infectious. Don't like that around me. No negativity. Don't like that around me. So there's certain things that I create a very, very particular reality. And it's actually interesting because to me, these things are all normal. But when you have these kind of standards, it's pretty hard to find friends. You're like, oh, you're a dumbass. You're a pussy. You're like, you don't talk to that many people. But if you get a crew together that act that way, it's amazing how, not to get all airy-fairy, but it's almost an intangible. When you have 6 men in one place who are perspicacious, who are paying attention, who do have their things right, who don't lose things, who do the whole room can smell it. When me and my crew walk in a room, even if it's almost like an energy. Some guy can be eating his dinner and not even see us walk in and go, 6 predators. It's like the rabbit when the fox comes. Like you can smell when the guys turn up. Do you know what I mean? And everyone's experienced it. Everyone's seen it. So anyone I associate with, I have these very, very stringent metrics, and they're basically just to make sure that nobody gets inspired by something they can't resist to snake us, and also nobody's overly sloppy and allows a way for us to be infiltrated and destroyed. And one of the easiest ways that people, especially in the modern world today, especially people in my position, are infiltrated and destroyed are women. So with women, I create that very heavily. If you get a guy who's thirsty and he's on your crew, let's say I have problems with another crew, let's say, and I know they have a member who's thirsty. That is the easiest job in the world. You get one hot bitch to Instagram message, you're going to find out where they are, what they're doing, where they've been, the hotel room right now. It's fucking done deal. You can do whatever you want to them idiots, right? You're going to have guys who can turn that shit down. I've had it a bunch of times in my life where I've been in countries. I was in Sofia, Bulgaria. I was talking to this girl. She's like, hey, 10 out of 10. And I've been talking to her for a few weeks. She's like, hey, let's meet at this place. I'm like, let's go here. No, this is my favorite place. Let's go here. And I was like, no. I'll turn pussy down. I could have been wrong. Could have been right. Could have been right. We're never going to know. I'll turn it down. But if you have that guy in your crew, hey, bro, she's so hot, bro. So hot. That's problems for you and him and everyone else. So you got to be very careful with the kind of life you're living. But if you live with people who have their lives in order, it's important. But professionalism is also a really big one. When I see people who are sloppy, it makes me very uncomfortable. Just general sloppiness. I can't explain it. It makes me uncomfortable.
When a girl is your girl, are you telling her anything? Or is it a understanding? Like, hey, listen, these are some things that I follow, and you're either okay with this or you're not, but I'm not compromising these things. Do you have those conversations when a girl is your main girl?
Yeah, so I've had relationships with women for 5 or 6 years, and they never knew my job. And I'll just say to them, look, if you know things, even though I don't do anything wrong, But if you know even who I associate with, you know things, then you have to lie. Why isn't it easier if you just don't know? Then you got to lie, right? So let's just, I'm working. What's work? Work's work. You're on a jet.
You're on a jet.
It's work, right? So I keep certain things from them because it makes it easier than them having to worry about a false narrative or a lie. In the event of whatever, or if we break up, then what, right? So I'm very careful of that. I'm very, very careful who I talk around as well. Like if there's random, like on the yacht, me, Tristan, and my cousin, we were just with 30 girls on the yacht. We didn't talk business once. We talked business one night when everyone was asleep. A couple times, like Luke went to go, hey man, I'll message you. We'll be sitting in the same room WhatsApp. It's just people. Loose lips sink ships. Doesn't matter if you're doing nothing wrong. You gotta be careful who you're talking around. They listening to shit. And in the modern world, they record shit. Like you don't want to, even if it's a 0.1% chance, but what's the upside? Like there's no upside. Yeah. So why take the 1% chance? Risk reward. I'm very, very careful. And especially with women, not because they're necessarily malicious, but because women in general don't have to worry about the certain things I'm talking about in terms of professionalism. There's a whole bunch of beautiful, smart, great women out there who just go through life and they're just Instagramming everywhere they go and they forgot their keys and do. And if she's too close to your circle, she's just an in. It's an in to get you. And you got to be careful. And it's amazing whether it's the 1970s Soviet spies or the 2022 mafia. When they want to get a dude, it's a chick. You either send a new chick or you watch his old chick or you find his girlfriend. Even a bounty hunter today. Let's say I was wanted by the police and they couldn't find me. Who's his girl? Bet he's gone there. Bet he needs some sex. Go put a car there. Every time. Every fucking time. You got to keep this shit in order. And the women I associate with have enough respect for me to go, okay, I don't know. Fine. Just, I love you. Love you. When they arrested El Chapo's girl, didn't you say I didn't know he was a criminal? I thought he was a chef or some shit. I'm like, perfect. She doesn't even know I lie anymore. He's a chef. He told me he's a chef. He's a chef.
He's a billionaire chef.
He's a chef. Dude's a chef. I don't know. The guy's a chef. So, and it's actually interesting because a lot of men want to brag to women because we want to show status. So you want to sit there and brag about all the good things you do, but there is a downside to that. There is a degree of downside. I was in Moldova. No, I take that back. I was in Constanta, Romania 9 years ago before I moved there. And I was in a club, and I must have been the only foreign person in the club. And there was a 11 out of 10 Moldovan girl, the most beautiful girl I'd ever seen. And I went over and I tried to talk to her, and she said, yeah, I only drink champagne. And at the time, I didn't have that much money. I said, I only drink champagne. Well, I'm finished drinking for the night, but it's very nice to meet you, because I couldn't afford a bottle of champagne, so I had to style it. So I was like, I don't have any. I said, I'll finish drinking for the night, but it's very nice to meet you. What's your name? What's your name? Okay, nice to meet you. Bye. Left the club, whatever. Next day I came, I saw her on this table, champagne show. Next table, champagne show. And while she was doing all this, we were kind of catching each other's eye, looking a little bit, And a couple times I caught her at lunch, because Santa's like a beach town. I caught her at lunch, I spoke to her a little bit. And she kept asking me for champagne. I was like, listen, you are absolutely gorgeous. I think you and I are going to have a long and happy future together. But I'm not going to buy you champagne. I'll tell you why later. I put mystery on it. So I can't tell you broke, right? I'll put mystery spin. So I'm going to tell you why I don't buy champagne later. It's a long and interesting story. Once I can trust you, I'm going to tell you why I won't buy you champagne. You can trust me now. I will tell you. Not yet. Style it off. Anyway, as we got to know each other across the summer, eventually when we became friends, she came clean. She works for the club. She gets commission on champagne. Of course. The girls in the club, you're buying champagne for this thing. She gets a commission per bottle. What was interesting is this. She had on her phone a system. So she'd meet you, you'd buy her drinks the first night. You'd go a separate date the second night, you'd buy her drinks. Third day, she'd send a pre-decide already in her notes how you live far away and she can't fall in love again. She's only been with one man in her whole life. She falls in love with you. She's going to have her heart broken and she's scared. And then she'll ghost you for 3 days. Then eventually after begging, you'll get her back, but she wants to come, but not on her own because she's scared. She wants to bring 3 friends and she'll go to this restaurant. She wants to drink this champagne. Boom, boom. Commission. And she'll show me in her Facebook message, every dude, playbook, every fucking guy, one after another, every night of the week, all just fall into the playbook. She goes, you're the only guy who never bought me champagne. I was like, yeah, well, I didn't tell her I didn't have any money. I was just about it. And I was like, I've been around the world. I know some things. So anyway, I played it off. And she was sitting there telling me, and when she was going through it, which was scary to me, she goes, yeah, this guy on Facebook, yeah, he's from Turkey and he does private airplanes and da-da-da-da-da. And this guy, she's telling all their jobs, the money they're making, where they live, the town they're in, because these dudes are sitting there talking, I'm so rich, baby, I'm so rich. You want champagne? I got it. I do this. And I'll sit there thinking, whichever mob boss picks this girl up is going to have a whole bunch of targets to go rob it all night long. Because dudes just can't shut the fuck up. And this was when I was 24, 25. Ever since then, I style it off. What's your job? Oh, I work. It depends where I am. If I'm like in Romania, I say I make papanash, which is a Romanian donut. It's a national food.
You're the donut guy.
I say I make papanash, baby. No. Papanash is like I'm number one. I just style off. None of them know my job. None of them know what I do. None of them know because you don't know.
Papanash.
You don't know they know. So I'm very, very careful when it comes to talking to women for that reason.
So that was a lot of so it's funny because when we met one of your lady with you last night, she stood there. Hi, this is my wife.
Yeah.
Didn't say anything.
Yeah.
No this.
Yeah.
No nothing. Distance didn't approach.
Yeah.
Didn't even entertain conversation.
Yep.
It's not even something that was going to happen.
Yep.
It's common in the Muslim community.
It is, yes.
That's why I asked you earlier if there was anybody that had any influence over you on the Muslim side.
Yeah. She is by coincidence Islamic. She is Muslim.
Okay.
She's half Turkish, half Romanian. But a lot of my women are kind of similar. They're like, oh, hi. And they don't really talk too much. And that's just something I've asked them to do in a very polite way. Say, look, I talk to lots of people. And you guys are fine, right? But I'll tell the truth. I say, I talk to a lot of unsavory people. I have a lot of people who know me, whose hands I shake, who are bad people. Bad people. They don't need to know too much about you. I don't even really want them to see you. It's unfortunate, and they catch me on the street, and you're with me. That's a bad time. I wish it didn't happen. The last thing you need to be doing is going and saying, hello, my name is this. Just don't talk to nobody. And by extension, it's the same thing with violence. I had a conversation with my girls as well. My girls are completely trained. I said, listen, if I'm ever attacked or anything ever happens to me, run. Scream and run. Don't be trying to get in the way or say, don't hit him or some bullshit. Just fucking leave. Because I know dudes don't care that you're a chick. You got to get out of here. So I try and be as protective as possible. I'm not trying to be controlling. I just try and protect them from situations. Just say hi. People like, hi. Don't say your name. Don't go over there. Oh, I knew him from here. We've been together this long. I'm from this country. Just leave it. And some people can find it weird and rude, but I think I can, overall, the people I know, and I can style it off and they can understand why it is that way. And it's just a better dynamic for me as a whole.
I respect it, And then you said loyalty. You said you don't need to know how to fight, but you have to be willing to fight.
Absolutely.
And if one code I had a friend of mine who I told him, I said, listen, guys, here's how I roll. I said, if your girl breaks up with you, she calls me, I have nothing to talk to her about.
Absolutely.
I said, if my girl breaks up with me and you're talking to her, you have nothing to talk to her about.
Absolutely.
Zero. Because the number one revenge is to get with a friend to do that. I said, so one time, a guy his girl contacts me, and one after another, after another, after another, after another. And I just finally said, we have nothing to talk about.
Absolutely.
Is the relationship, not you.
Absolutely.
Some of these things, it's
and that comes from a lack of thirst, right? You have a thirsty dude.
Yeah.
What happens there, right?
But it's also a filtering process, because once you see it, you're kind of like, yeah, that's not going to be a long-term relationship. There's a loose lip situation. I had an assistant that every time I'm working on a big announcement that I'm about to announce to everybody in the company, a certain departments, when I said, there's no way you could know this announcement.
Yeah.
How do you know this announcement? Keynote speaker, I'm launching Kobe Bryant. One person asked, how do you know this?
Yeah.
I'm Kerry, online shopping pro, and I survived every message scam in the book, thanks to Bitdefender. Because you can't go wrong when you choose what the experts use.
How do you know we're announcing Kobe Bryant as a keynote speaker, late Kobe Bryant? Finally, I'm like, he can't be my assistant.
Yeah.
Because even though you get excited, you got to keep it to yourself. This isn't anybody else's business.
Yeah.
This is, if you're on the inside, you're on the inside. Nothing leaks to anybody else, no matter what business dealings.
And this is the thing about emotionality, because you just nailed it. Even with the best possible intentions, people are excitable, they're manipulatable, and they can be used. This is why stoicism is so important. Let's imagine in a hypothetical situation, you guys would hand me $1 million cash right now. I would sit and think, I'd say thank you, and I'd sit and think, am I going to get out of this building alive? I wouldn't be like, wow, $1 million. Oh, I wouldn't get excited. I'd be like, that's unusual. Fuck. That's what I think. I'd poker face it, but that's what would go through my brain. Because if I was excitable, wow, $1 million, and you'll give me more? Wow, boom. That's the end of the game, right? You can't be excitable. There's a time and a place when you're with very, very select people in very, very private environments, you can be excitable. But otherwise, yeah, you're right. People get excited and they talk too much and they get happy and da-da-da. And it's fine at a certain echelon, but once you reach the upper echelons of life, you have to really start analyzing risk reward, especially in the modern world. Especially, look at me now, right? I just took a huge risk. I'm a misogynist and I'm evil, and I just want to boat with 30 girls. If one of them were to turn on me, imagine the bullshit that would have come out of this. That's a risk. And I had to analyze the risk, had a conversation with all the girls in advance, made it clear they all had their own separate bedrooms, that operate extremely professionally, CCTV on the boat. That I couldn't just be some jackass. Let's all just go get drunk. Let me see everyone get drunk at a sex fest. You have to be pro. You have to be professional about things. And the sloppy guy wouldn't have done that in my position. He was go, hey, I got a boat, I got girls, I got booze, I got money. It's the end of the game. So you got smart.
It's easier said than done.
It's easier said than done.
Control the emotions when it comes down to things like that. Musk, you hear a story about Musk where his dad told him the most important role a man has is to populate.
Yep.
Right? And he's got what? I think he's got 10 kids now? 8 kids now? Did you see he just had another set of twins?
Some ridiculous amount of number, but he's trying to repopulate the planet and or Mars.
Yeah, this is
10 kids.
10 kids. He's got 10 kids. Yeah. You're talking about the richest man in the world, possibly one of the smartest brains in the world, one of the best trolls in the world, one of the most necessary forces in the world, where the people that are not fans of you, can't stand him. That's enemy to state number one. They don't like the fact that he can just drop $44 billion and to be able to buy Twitter or do anything he's doing. What do you think about Elon Musk?
Man, I love Elon, and I love that he is a man of purpose, and I have so much respect for men of purpose. Most people who get his kind of paycheck, whenever he got it in the 90s, would have just cashed out, hedonism, and bullshit. He decided to risk it all again to try and achieve the most impossible things. That's how you got to where you are. That's how I got to where I am. When you have enough to stop, but you don't stop. For some reason, there's some new mountain to climb. And that is what's beautiful about men as a whole. All of the exploration on the planet, the deep sea, Antarctica, Mount Everest, all of it was a man who had enough and thought, no, I'm going to go anyway. And that's who Elon is. So I have so much respect for him because he doesn't need to do any of the stuff he's doing. And he's adopting the biggest problems in the world and all the headache that comes with it. You're right. All the heat and all the dislike and all the pressure, he's adopting it anyway. And those are the kind of men we need more of. Men who say, you know what? Yeah, I do have enough. It's not about enough.
Who are some guys that you would put in that level with Musk, like Musk?
Well, Musk is Musk, right?
He's the pinnacle, but who else would you put in that space?
I have respect for anyone who's kind of similar. I'm trying to think of people who I idolize and really look up to. Some of them are fighters. Like I always loved Mayweather. I think Mayweather's the best boxer in history.
Really?
Yeah, I liked Mayweather. I was a huge fan of Mayweather.
Best boxer in history?
Yeah.
Ahead of Ali?
Yeah. I mean, Ali's Ali, right? But Mayweather's never lost. He's never lost to anybody. And I liked him because he was so clinical and so precise. And he took his ego out of it and said, I want to have a longer career than everyone else. So I'm going to focus on not getting hit and hitting him. I may not get the knockout. I don't need the knockout. I've won. Just win, clinical, chess. Win, payday. Win, payday. Your fight was boring. 100 bill, whatever. 100 mil, whatever. Yeah, boring. Cool. Next, win. He was really smart. So I like Mayweather. He's someone I've always looked up to and I really respect. That's a really good question. I think that it's kind of difficult now in the world because also a lot of the people who are propagated to the top and perpetuated into absolute global stardom, I'm not sure if all of them have done it through good intentions. We can look at the things we said from Logan earlier, etc. But I think even now I have the most respect for the common man. I think I have so much respect for the common man. I say it all the time to Tristan. Me and him will have our most in-depth conversations when we're in a S-class on our way to the private jet and we see a street sweeper at 3 a.m. in Romania knowing he's getting $200 a month. And me and T will look at him and go, I respect that. Like, it's just, man, there are so many people out here just living hard lives. And I have so much respect for them. And we can talk about the ones who make it, but there's so many people who don't make it. And that's difficult. And